The year 2018 had many twists and turns, from governance through to security and economic matters. Ghanaians were simply spoiled for choice in terms of what to discuss. We recall the top issues that generated the loudest conversation. The year started on an optimistic note, at least for many anti-corruption crusaders. President Akufo-Addo on January 2 signed the Special Prosecutor Bill into law.
It's an important ceremony because some of the most important elements of the MPP manifesto, upon which we were elected into office, have now found legislative expression. And I thought it would be good for the country to see that that development has taken place. So I've asked you to come and witness, as it were, my assent to 5 separate bills that the Parliament has enacted. The first is the establishment of the office of the Special Prosecutor, as though there's gone through a lot of controversy. But my hope and expectation is that the establishment of this office is going to be an important step in our collective determination to root out corruption in the public life of our country. All of us know that it has been a major bane in the development of Ghana. And hopefully this office, that is its intention, will make that contribution and make sure that public officials, past and present, are held to account for their actions, and that corrupt acts will no longer go without investigation and, if necessary, sanction once due process has been respected.
This optimism heightened when a member of the opposition NDC, Martin Amidu, was appointed by President Akufo-Addo as Ghana's first special prosecutor. The reactions were varied.
I've accepted the Attorney General's nomination and will in turn submit for Parliament's approval the name of Martin Alemisi Burns Kaiser Amidu.
That announcement took many by surprise, not least former Shraj boss Justice Emil Short.
I must admit that I didn't see it coming. He has a very sound record. I think he should be acceptable to all shades of opinion.
Justice Short was emphatic. Martin Amidu is the best man for the job, but not for the NDC and some of his members of parliament. Former Deputy Attorney General Dr. Dominic Ayine did not mince words, stating his opposition to Martin Amidu.
The 2016 campaign, he was more or less our nemesis when it came to issues of corruption. He was campaigning in the corner of the MPP. I have my doubts whether he will be really very neutral.
Another member of the opposition on the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee in Parliament, Roxin Dafeamekpo, agrees. The party itself, the NDC, an organization Martin Amidu served in many capacities for more than 2 decades, is also opposed, fearing he will witch hunt members of the party, some of whom he had previously accused of corruption. Kofi Adams is a national organizer.
How can that give me comfort when I'm just talking about how this very same person found everything necessary to take on NDC members? Even after we have lost elections, he was still making allegations against the party that he could not substantiate. When very serious scandals that got international attention were happening under this government, I didn't hear my citizen vigilante. Because I did not hear him in 2017, I have my problem, and he has to prove all of us wrong that he will be independent.
The party may be opposed, but its founder and former president, Jerry Rawlings, is fully in support. In a statement, Mr. Rawlings says the president couldn't have made a better choice. He even praised President Akufo-Addo and says, quote, "The president by this appointment has risen above partisanship and recognized a highly principled citizen. He asked the public to give him their full support. The president has now formally forwarded the appointment to Parliament. Mr. Amidu will have to be vetted and approved by a simple majority in Parliament. But will he get the support of the minority side of the House? Only time will tell."
We hit some streets in Accra to sample your views on the president's appointment so far. Here are some reactions we got.
The moment Ghanaians have been waiting for arrived yesterday when President Akufo-Addo announced the nomination of Martin Amidu as special prosecutor. Now, 10 minutes after that announcement, it was the #1 trend on Twitter, with a lot of Ghanaians sharing varying opinions on his nomination. Today, we are here on the streets of Accra, very close to Sanitation, to hand over the microphone to the people to find out from them exactly what they think about that nomination. Now, behind me, the newspapers all on display, all of them are washed with the nomination of Martin Amidu. I have with me Richard Ashali and then Oscar Asari to also share their opinions on the nomination. Mr. Ashali, what do you think about, first of all, let me start. How did you take it when you heard the announcement?
Very, very good. Okay. Martin Amidu is very, very, very prominent, and then he's a very truthful. It seems the president know him already because he's the friend of the late Mr. Joseph A. Adams, the former Deputy Commissioner of Police, CID, and he's a close friend to Martin Amidu. And once Martin Amidu is a friend to him, and he also shares boundary. Martin Amidu also and Nana Akufo-Addo shares boundary with Mr. Adams. So they were close friends. He knows him very well, that he can handle the position. Even at his death, during the death of Mr. J. Adams, he have informed Martin Amidu. Hello. He have informed Martin Amidu that he should take the money, he should make ready and then take the money that Wyoming took. So I'm sure the money will come back to government chest. So I'm very happy about what the government have done. Thank you, President. Thank you.
Were you surprised after the announcement yesterday?
Oh,
because I mean, a lot of people really didn't understand.
I'm very surprised. He done a very good job. He have done a very good job.
Okay.
I'm surprised. He's very good, and he can do the work too. Okay. He can do the work.
Great. Let me find out from Oscar Sari. Were you surprised by the announcement yesterday?
No, I'm not surprised by the announcement because Martin Amidu is a Ghanaian.
Okay.
And he has the integrity to do the work. I follow Martin Amidu since he came to the what is called political sense, from JJ's time up to this time. Yeah. The man is good. He can do it. There's nothing wrong about it. And Nanadu is somebody who has followed politics in Ghana here since generation. So he knows what he's doing.
Okay.
He knows people who have got the courage and the integrity to do the work. I think Martin Amidu is such a person that he will not even favor even his own son or wife. So look, in Ghana, you have to get somebody who is courageous to fight for us. And look, let us forget about NDC, MPP, and let us think about the country first. So that whoever can think about the country is the person who can do the work for us. So I see nothing wrong with taking Amidu as this public prosecutor, the chairman of the public prosecutor. It is good. Yeah, it is good. It will let us know that Nana Akufo-Addo is not thinking about only MPP, but he's thinking about the nation. That is all. So what people are talking about, if you haven't done anything, when we are passing by police station, if you think we are not a thief, you have nothing to fear. Why? If you have not taken any money from the nation, or if you have not squandered any money, why should you fear Martin Amidu?
Talking about taking money from the state, there are some assertions out there that because he was fired by, former President J.E. Mills, then when he was the Attorney General, and he fell out with some NDC members also. Some people think that because of that, he would witch hunt them, he would target them for prosecution. Those are some assertions being shared on the streets. Do you agree with that?
Oh, that is their mind, because they are fearing their shadow. They are afraid of their shadow. Okay. Yes, but Martin Amidu can do the work perfectly. He's a Ghanaian, all right, and once the president has nominated him, there's no mistake, and he will do the work. I know he will do the work. I know him personally, and I know he will do the work.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, same question to Mr.
Is it going to be that when Martin Amidu calls you, that day he will jail you? No. We have competent lawyers in Ghana here. They will defend you. So no one should get afraid of what is going to happen. When we are being called, you go there, defend yourself. If I'm not taking it now, well, you'll be set free. So no one should fear, to entertain the fears. I think we are going to do the work for Ghanaians, and he will succeed. By the grace of God, he will succeed, and Ghana will succeed.
Okay, lastly, do you think corruption would go down? I mean, the corruption would go down with a nomination of Martin Amidu?
I hope the corruption will go down, because he wrote in papers that the president should cycle Wyoming. Then later he will draw the letter from the Attorney General that he should leave everything to the president. And I hope people, because of that, people who are afraid and will not do corruption, will not corrupt.
So you think that with the nomination or with the appointment of Martin Amidu, people will be scared now to engage in corrupt practices? That's what, especially in the public sector.
People will scare for corruption. Yes.
Public sector
workers will be scared, and they won't corrupt. Okay. They won't corrupt. Okay. The president have done a very good job. They have done a very good job. May God bless him. May God bless him and live long.
Are you optimistic, Mr. Sari, that Martin Amidu coming in, we're sure that he's going to be approved by Parliament. With him coming in, do you think, we'll be making headway with our fight against corruption?
Oh, yes. You see, we cannot do it one day. Though he's a human being, unless we Ghanaians help him by at least stopping what we have been doing for the past. You see, if you and I says that Martin Amidu has come to fight for corruption, we have to also help him to stop that corruption that we have been making. Go to ministries, go to so many people. There's corruption everywhere. So the little that he can do or he's come to do, what happens to eradicate corruption? So I think it is a normal, he can do it. Okay. He can do it. We only think that you thank God that we pray for him so that he can do with the courage that he can come to do it. It can succeed.
Okay. Interesting perspectives from the streets here at Sanitation. Earlier when we got here, we stood here for some time and, just listening to people, what their views are. A lot of people are actually in support of the nomination of Martin Amidu. Just about two people I saw here who sort of disagreed. Did not want him as the special prosecutor, but about 7 people that I saw here were all excited about the nomination. And you heard from Mr. Ashley, who is a teacher. You also heard from Oscar Sari, who has worked with the Spectator for 17 years. He sells the newspapers here, actually, also sharing their own views and opinions about the nomination of Martin Amidu as a special prosecutor. Let the conversation continue everywhere you find yourself. Maxwell Ababa, JoyNews.
A former Deputy Attorney General, Dominic Ayene, filed a case at the Apex Court challenging Mr. Amidu's eligibility to hold the position. His application to amend his case was later rejected.
Former Deputy Attorney General Dominic Ayene was represented by a former Attorney General herself, Marietta Briapia-Opon, as well as lawyer Tony Letha. Deputy Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Dame represented the state as the leader of the legal team, whilst the special prosecutor Martin Amidu represented himself as a defendant in this particular matter. So Judge Justice Gabriel Poaman first asked that lawyer Letha moves the motion asking for permission to file supplementary statement of case. This was opposed by Godfred Yeboah-Dame, whilst lawyer Letha had argued that the rules of the court allows him to file such additional documents, and in fact the court has the discretion to allow that to be done. Godfred Yeboah-Dame insisted that was not the position of the law. A special prosecutor Martin Amidu said that they indeed were breaching the procedure of the court, and that instead of coming over to the court to ask the court for permission to file that application, they have rather filed the application, have now come to the court asking that the court uses discretionary powers to allow them file those additional documents. So Judge Justice Gabriel Poaman ruled that the application lacked merit and thus dismissed it. For Special Prosecutor Martin Amidu, he is going about his work despite the fact that the substantive matter still persists.
It is not. I've been sworn in and I'm the Special Prosecutor. And
so far, are you getting all the resources that you need?
I am going on with my work, please. I can't discuss official matters to the press, please.
So you can assure us that it's not affecting your work?
I am doing my work. I am doing my work. Haven't I come to court?
A date for the substantive case that has to do with whether Mr. Amidu is qualified in terms of his age to hold public office is still pending before the Supreme Court, and a date is yet to be fixed. Reporting for JoyNews from the Supreme Court, my name is Joseph Akable.
Mr. Amidu, who represented himself in court, later filed his statement of case. He urged the court to throw out the case against him.
Dr. Dominic Ayine wants the Supreme Court to annul the appointment of Martin Amidu because Mr. Amidu has gone past 60 years, the statutory retirement age for public office holders in Ghana. Martin Amidu does not dispute the fact that he is past 60 years. He argues that the case against him is without merit under the 1992 Constitution. According to the special prosecutor, Parliament has the residual power under the Constitution to enact special laws to deal with matters such as the intractable canker of corruption and corruption-related offences expressly prescribed by the Constitution and laws of Ghana. He said Dr. Ayine failed or refused to realize that Parliament had the power to create a special vehicle that can engage persons of his age to fight corruption because he is fishing for evidential straw on which to hang his uncertain case or uncertain course of action. He said Dr. Ayine is a surrogate of the defeated government in the 2016 election and is fronting for most of his political office holders who fear his expertise, experience and capabilities. He is therefore praying the Supreme Court to dismiss the case against him for lack of merit.
The special prosecutor nominee was later sworn into office by President Akufo-Addo.
President Akufo-Addo on January 11 this year named Martin Amidu, a former Attorney General, for the position of Independent Special Prosecutor. The nomination was commended by anti-corruption campaigners and civil society, particularly because Mr. Amidu is noted for his relentless campaign against the abuse of public funds, which is evident in the role he played in the State versus Alfred Woyome during the infamous Waterville financial saga. But some, particularly members of the opposition NDC, of which Mr. Amidu was a member until his appointment, raised concerns about the possibility of the special prosecutor witch-hunting them. He appeared before Parliament Appointments Committee, where he was, among others, asked why he chose to accept the position.
What will be different between the special prosecutor's office and whatever office of law enforcement? And the reason why I agreed to accept the nomination is that this is a new office. Corruption has done so much damage to this country. In the conflict resolution, it is called structural violence. So what I want to do is to be able to set up a credible institution with a credible culture, which will be able to block the leakages and the seepages.
Nonetheless, Mr. Amidu was unanimously approved by the committee and subsequently by the House. Earlier this week, the anti-graft campaigner wrote an article in which he justified his claims, explaining his responses were necessary to provide anonymity for his sources. As he swore him in officially into office Friday, President Akufo-Addo urged the new special prosecutor to exhibit justice and fairness in the discharge of his duties.
The Ghanaian people expect the office of the special prosecutor to rise to the challenge and to the occasion and collaborate with other existing law enforcement agencies to fight relentlessly and help eliminate corruption in our public life. We expect the special prosecutor to discharge his duties vigorously, with courage, without fear or favor, ill will or malice, in accordance with the rule of law. The establishment of this office is for a high purpose and must not under any circumstances be used as an avenue for persecution or vengeance. The office will be required to do justice to all manner of persons.
Mr. Amidu assured he will not be swayed by the propaganda associated with his job in the prosecution of public officers found culpable of corruption.
I wish to assure you that the propaganda about witch hunting will not daunt me from prosecuting all corruption crimes without reference to political considerations. As you had yourself admonished, once a suspected offender is established by investigation to have committed offenses prosecutable in the national interest, I will treat crime as crime and nothing else.
Meanwhile, former President Jerry John Rawlings has expressed confidence Mr. Martin Amidu, as special prosecutor, will help restore integrity back into governance. He said it was vital to clean up the rot that has overwhelmed many of the country's public institutions, leaving many Ghanaians poor. The former president was speaking on the sidelines of the funeral of renowned mathematician Professor Francis Alote in Accra, also commended the president for appointing Mr. Amidu.
For him to go out of his way, that's what some would think. But I think his appointment of Martin is a vindication of where he stands as far as corruption is concerned. It's not going to be an easy battle unless we all get involved. To think we could have utilized somebody like Martin Amidu many years ago, from Professor Mills to our friend John Mahama. Instead, we avoided him. We ostracized him the way we do with people like me or my wife. And then it takes somebody from a party completely opposed to us, Nana Akufo-Addo, to come and appoint him, not as the Minister of State, but as the Chief Prosecutor. He'll help to clean up the situation. He's going to help us restore integrity back into governance. If you don't trust Martin Amidu, then don't trust anybody.
The expectation of many that Mr. Amidu will immediately swing into action fighting corruption was short-lived, as he publicly chided government for failing to provide him adequate resources. He was simply relying on common sense without a legislative instrument to work effectively. A retired Supreme Court Judge, Justice Stephen Alan Brobe, joined the chorus, asking government to walk the talk and provide resources.
The prosecutor has told the whole world his requirements, which must be satisfied before he can start working in full. Now, what he has given to the public as a picture is like buying a car and giving it to a person, asking him to drive, knowing very well there's no petrol in it. You need to buy petrol, put it inside. Without the petrol, the car will not work. So, having stated his requirements, I think he's been candid to anybody who is concerned with what he does. And we can only hope and pray that those requirements will be met sooner than later so that he can start working in earnest. That's all.
While he waited for the BOST to operate, a petition was being prepared for his desk.
Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, Duncan Amoah, has had serious issues with the transaction between BOST and BB Energy and vowed to petition the office of a special prosecutor and Yoko over the matter.
BOST went selling at a time that prices were going up on the world market. BOST was the only company across the world that was selling crude for lower, than the benchmark. BOST was the only company across the world that would agree to sell crude at a discount of $2, not $1. And then you find a sale having been carried out as we speak. Even the amount for $54 that was agreed to be paid, not everything has been settled. 5-6 months down the line. So there are losses across the chain. And we think that the special prosecutor must be interested in this one. Iyoko must be interested in this one. The police CID must be interested in this one.
But BOST, at a news conference on Tuesday, fought off the allegations disputing the amount of crude oil sold in the transaction.
Whenever we bring crude into the country, we generate what we call out-time reports. This is the way it looks. It's signed by the ship captain. It's signed by the inspectorate. It's signed by the buyer rep. It's signed by the seller rep. It's signed by an independent person doing the quality test. This is it. The product that came in, I'm talking about not the one we sold. The actual product that came in was around 945,000 thereabouts. No, that was what was sold. You have to understand something in this industry. It's not cement. So if you bring 5, you cannot take out 5. It's liquid that pass through pipes that will use certain things to determine the quantity. Okay? So the quantity that came in was around 945 and so. But the quantity that we sold was around 942,000 because that is what is called pumpable. It means that if you put it in this water, you want it pumped back, you can't have access to everything. Okay? So that is what went. So the question is, if the quantity that came in was 940, how do you sell 1.8? How do you sell 1.8? You see, so these are baseless accusations. Baseless.
Albert Mante noted BOST did no wrong in selling the crude to BB Energy at the discounted $2 as claimed by COPEC.
The product is in Ghana. So if they are shipping the product back, they will incur costs to do that. So giving them discount is not out of place to facilitate the movement of the product back to wherever they want to move it.
BOST says the company at the center of a transaction does not require a Ghanaian license to make the purchase for refinery purposes.
There is another allegation he raised that the company was unlicensed. Before I answer that, let me ask you, if any of you buy product to Côte d'Ivoire, to any refinery, anywhere, that you want to refine your product, do you need a license of that country before you can refine your product? I don't think you do. If you buy a product and send it to Côte d'Ivoire to go and refine the product in their refinery, you don't need to register there before you can get your product refined.
Despite the responses, COPEC says it is convinced there were breaches for which the state lost money it could have saved through the transaction. Duncan Amoah insists investigative bodies, IOCO, Special Prosecutor and the police should be interested in probing the transaction.
COPEC hit back at BOST, insisting there were issues of corruption backed by evidence. While pressure mounted on the president to take action against the BOST boss, Mr. Akufo-Addo was equally busy attending to other matters of the state.
One of the significant developments of the past year was the commissioning of an architect for the cathedral project. I'm proud to announce to the nation that we have commissioned one of the most iconic of contemporary global architects and a son of Ghana. Throughout history, what has distinguished the great cathedrals and those with a national character is the broad mobilization of the entire community in support of the building and maintenance of the cathedrals. Before the cathedrals, this was true of the temples and the tabernacle. On Sunday, the 25th of February this year, I visited the Washington National Cathedral to go and worship, and was reminded once again of this truth. The challenge of building Ghana's national cathedral, therefore, relates to the mobilization of our people in support of the project. The broad representation of the Ghanaian Christian community at this event shows the emergence of a national coalition that will arise and build the cathedral to the glory of God.
The architect, under the task of designing the edifice, explained the importance of having a national cathedral.
Ghana's mother church will all face the welcome to gather, worship, celebrate in spiritual accord. Housed within it will be rich, authentic celebration of Ghanaian tradition and culture, a traditional metaphor that speaks to the unification of West African regions, identity, and collective kingship, reflecting on the multiplicities of Christianity in Ghana in all its manifestations, enabling them to coalesce in an expression of Ghanaian unity and strength. The cathedral's form is derived from the traditional symbols of power, worship, and veneration, drawing on the references of both traditional heritage and Ghanaian and Christian symbolism. Christian architectural principles articulate the national cathedral's proportions, orientation, and use of the number 12, referring to the apostles of the Lord. The draped roof form, which you'll see in a moment, draws from the great symbols of our traditional culture, such as the opulent Bowman ceremonial canopies, traditionally used to shade and protect our asantehins, and also in the Old Testament, a device which is used to shade the tabernacle of the Lord. The palette colors derive from our traditional color spectrum, talking about harmony, unity, our spirit as a nation, and of course, white is used to symbolize the power of the Ghanaian people as a form. We have also commissioned some of the most celebrated and progressive Ghanaian and African artists on the continent today to help us with the cathedral's religious adornment and furnishings. We hope that the cathedral will also form a new ceremonial route and landscape, also to be a gift to the nation, linking the cathedral to Ghana's prominent celebratory landmarks, Independence Square, Osu Cemetery, the State House, and the African Unity Circle.
At the same Independence Day celebration, President Akufo-Addo made a case for his Ghana Beyond Aid agenda.
There is a new African in the world. That new African is ready to fight his own battle and show that after all, the black man is capable of managing his own affairs.
In spite of huge natural resources, Ghana still heavily relies on donor support to stay afloat. Perhaps the theme Ghana Beyond Aid is a good reminder and a good call on the country to be truly independent in all fronts.
The change in our fortunes will only happen when our economy improves. Since I became president, I've been advocating for a Ghana, indeed an Africa Beyond Aid, and I'm keen to have the support of all of us in this enterprise. Nobody needs to spell it out to us that the economic transformation we desire will not come through aid.
To the chairman of the People's National Convention, Bernard Mona, Ghana Beyond Aid is a great call, but needs strong policy to achieve that goal.
I see it more of a slogan, more of a rhetoric than any attempt to actualize it. There are no policies that have been rolled up for actualization. What is it to talk about when you say Ghana Beyond Aid? What are we doing as a people? What things is the president expecting citizens to do? In the absence of any framework, the talk of it is not sufficient to drive the agenda for Ghana Beyond Aid. It is a good slogan, it makes good sound bites, but in all honesty, there is no policy roll-up to support the statements that the president is making.
What about the thousands of Ghanaians who thronged the Black Star Square and listened to the president? What does Ghana Beyond Aid mean to them?
Ghana Beyond Aid. I know I say Ghana Beyond Aid no crying. I say
I see, you know, Ghana Beyond Aid. I think they are now see changes of the Ghana. They have made Ghana right now. We are moving the highest forward. Now that we are seeing different things, because the way the president is doing.
Different things like what?
Okay, we see how the president is doing it because of free exchanges and new things. I have seen Ghana has changed a lot of things, cleanliness and others.
Is that what is Ghana Beyond Aid?
Okay, as for the Ghana Beyond Aid, as for me, my understanding is they have made a new different jobs and other different ones. So I can see they are now getting to the Ghana Beyond Aid.
So Ghana Beyond Aid, how do you understand it?
I don't get any idea for it. I'm sorry, I don't get any idea for it.
You don't get any idea?
Yeah.
What about you? Ghana Beyond Aid? How do you
Ghana
Beyond Aid?
Ghana Beyond Aid?
Yes.
Actually, I don't understand that statement.
Ekuya Donko of the Ghana Freedom Party said although she carefully listened to the president, she did not understand what the president meant by Ghana Beyond Aid. If ordinary Ghanaians expected to work hard to support the country's vision don't get the message, then government communicators should perhaps find better ways of breaking it down.
For many who thought this could well mean a decline in the level of Ghana's cooperation with superpowers, government had different ideas.
The intercepted document urges Ghana's parliament to, quote, respectfully consider and approve the agreement between the government of the United States of America and the government of Ghana. Here are brief highlights of what the United States gets from Ghana. Unrestricted access to a host of Ghanaian facilities. Wide-ranging tax exemptions to the United States military. U.S. military will use Ghana as a base for staging and deploying forces. Ghana will bear the cost and take primary responsibility for securing the U.S. facilities in Ghana. Ghana will provide unimpeded access to and the use of agreed facilities and areas to the United States forces and contractors. The agreement allows U.S. forces and their contractors to undertake construction activities and make alterations and improvements to agreed facilities and areas. The United States contractors shall not be liable to pay tax or similar charge access within Ghana in connection with this agreement. On imports and exports, the U.S. forces may also import into and export out of and use in Ghana any personal property, equipment, supplies, material, technology, training, or services in connection with the agreement. Such importation, exportation, and use shall be exempt from any inspection, license, other restrictions, customs duty taxes, or any other charges within Ghana. Aircraft vehicles and vessels operated by or at the time exclusively for the United States forces may enter and exit and move freely within the territory and territorial waters of Ghana. In terms of radio spectrum, the United States forces can also use Ghana's radio spectrum free of charge and have unimpeded access. Ghana has to accept as valid without a driving test or fee driving licenses or permits issued by the appropriate U.S. authorities to military personnel as well as civilians and contractors. In a nutshell, the document says the USA wants Ghana as a base for staging and deploying forces. What does Ghana get in return? Facilitation of training, maintaining unit of readiness, continued exercise and other military opportunities, the document says. It continues, enhanced and fruitful security cooperation between Ghana and the US. Also, exchange of information and conduct of joint operations to combat terrorism. The Defense Minister, Dominic Mitiwu, says Ghana gets a $20 million package, even though that is not stated in the agreement cited by JoyNews.
President Akufo-Addo did not take kindly to the media's publication of what he called a confidential agreement.
And how else would we have exposed the unspeakable hypocrisy of the fraternity of some frontline politicians who make a habit of running with the hares and hunting with the hounds, who secretly wallow in the largesse of the United States of America, while at the same time promote anti-American sentiments to a populist constituency. Submitting this agreement to open scrutiny now allows us to clear the unhealthy fog that has clouded our relations with the United States of America. Nobody would have been surprised that a defense cooperation agreement would make such provisions. Such knowledge would have spared many citizens the genuine anxiety and concern they have felt about the agreement. It is my firm belief that the case for openness and transparency in our governance has been clearly demonstrated, and the argument conclusively settled by these events. But we have to take issue with the frontline politicians who have sought to mislead the people in this blatant manner, and those who, for mischievous purposes, leaked the document destined for the scrutiny of Parliament prematurely to a section of the media, who then went on to describe it as a secret document. How could a document intended for the consideration of Parliament be described as a secret document? How could anyone who has been in government and run the administration of this nation feign ignorance of the conditions under which Ghanaian troops undertake peacekeeping operations, or the conditions under which our country has collaborated with major international institutions?
This brought to the fore discussion about the more than a decade-old Right to Information Bill still pending in Parliament. The assurances from various quarters that the bill will be passed started pouring in.
There is, however, one piece of the anti-corruption framework that is yet to be put in place: the Right to Information Bill. It would increase transparency and add another critical weapon to the armory in the fight against corruption. After many years of hesitation, we intend to bring a bill again to Parliament and work to get it passed into law before the end of this meeting of Parliament.
The bill was late, but the wait for its passage became a long, tortuous one. Even before talks about the military cooperation agreement died down, the matters relating to the security of the state came up strong.
10:30, and I take gunshot. And I'm a friend about my gunshot. So we were thinking, say, a few people.
We had gunshots and we came out to look at what was happening. We found the pastor lying in a pool of blood. I saw 2 gunshot wounds in his back. So we rushed him to the hospital.
At the sound of gunshots, some neighbors poured out to the scene.
So for OTTM F Frey, it's your honor as we had Imrika a buyer. Your banner to Utah mattress with the you know how now I call her, and I say, my man, here too. Also, I beg, one man they smoke for the top there. I say that one they cool. The honor me who say me also me just through now. Man one issues now, and I'm transfer my car no. Not tuning in a far ho. The honor not done and no hear me. Honor me the man who never had no. 2 another ha. Also 2 last one another ha.
We heard shouts and screams from a distance, and we came out to meet the confrontation.
The second one man or top form.
But it's the narration of 28-year-old daughter of the deceased, Naomi Asantewa, who was with her dad when the robbers struck, that's got residents the more terrified.
Boys the next building
heard people screaming, "Pastor, Pastor," and came out only to see my father lying in a pool of blood. This was around 10:50 p.m. I became terrified and started screaming for help. There was a taxi driver around, so we asked him and rushed to Akawe Hospital. When we arrived at the hospital, they asked us to transfer him to the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, where he was confirmed dead. I later went to the police station to give my statement. The rate of robbery attacks in our area these days is very alarming.
Later on, me bag be mo meti noise ni ade nkrofo di betwa ho na msi pastor ni ade na me ko say ono nso etuo na yeden aka no a wada ho.
Family members, neighbors and friends of the deceased have been visiting his home to commiserate with them. Residents say the robbers spare no one, not even livestock are safe.
Akronfo ni de Sampa Valley had the amo hard train. Every day and night nyamo hard train. En koko en ponche nyama akronfo ye wa had the edoso.
For Helen, Naomi and Harry, the only way out of a situation is increased police patrols and visibility in the area, which has become notorious for all sorts of attacks, day and night.
Very much frightened. And in 3 days, 4 robbery attacks in the area. It makes us feel so much unsafe.
And you understand someone has even died in the process?
Yes, 2 people actually have died. One pastor and another guy that they robbed and picked a taxi from him. So we would want the government to increase police.
How about the other residents and your neighbors? How are they dealing with all of this?
Everybody is afraid. We need the presence of the police much in this area.
Sampa Valley is just one of the areas recently affected. At a private school at Baria, a school director and his driver were shot by 2 gun-wielding men on motorbikes who demanded they handed over monies they had just withdrawn from the First Atlantic Bank on a sunny Wednesday afternoon.
11 to 12 and who said na car no eba na motor susun edi achire nti o be cross so anim e ti say no edutututu say bring the brown envelope no mo kanti papa no mo shoot ni wie na o mo fa envelope no na mo je car kin to kan na.
It was a daylight robbery. 2 people on a motorbike chased the school director and demanded he brought the money. They shot the 2 occupants and sped off with the money.
What happened again?
I'm afraid a police for by now school for throw inside when na police back on no afraid now for police for mobile no mo ebe hwe bibia no mfa car no e de koye mo shooting nsa and our driver no so ne nan ene ordinance say ya gi tuo ni bidin nsa yam ene ne nan say no driver no pray ba school and ne nsa pe.
Following the 4 attacks which have left 2 people killed, 2 others severely injured, residents are unanimous in their call for increased security in the area, even as family of the deceased prepare to bury their dead. The Weja police has confirmed the incidents, assuring a hunt is on for the perpetrators of the crimes.
The police service had a response. Another threat was meanwhile creeping in the financial sector.
On Monday, August 14, 2017, the Bank of Ghana announced the complete takeover of UT and Capital Bank Limited by the GCB Bank Limited after revoking the licenses of the two commercial banks. The central bank attributed its sanctions to the severe impairment of the capital of the two banks, adding that it approved a purchase and assumption P&A transaction involving the banks to protect depositors' funds and strengthen Ghana's financial sector. Addressing a news conference in Accra, the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, emphasized that no depositor will lose his or her funds and all depositors can continue to do normal banking businesses with GCB Bank. The Bank of Ghana subsequently served notice that it will thoroughly investigate operations of UT Bank and Capital Bank and take appropriate action against shareholders, directors and key management personnel who are found to be culpable for the undercapitalization of the two banks. The then head of banking supervision, Raymond Amanfo, speaking on JoyNews' upfront, said the central bank will ensure those found culpable after investigations will be sanctioned according to law.
What specifically are they expected to do?
One, what we are saying is that they should review the corporate governance issues in this bank. How were decisions taken?
The two or one? Both?
Or both.
Okay, that's clear.
How were decisions taken? Were there any infractions on the rules? Right? Were there any insider abuse? Why these decisions were made? Who made those decisions? Were they board decisions? Were they an individual's decision? Was it the CEO? Who made those decisions?
So they are to find out whether something went wrong.
Yeah, that's the point.
But so far, do we have any reason to believe something went wrong?
Raymond, you can't have a bank planned so deep without something going wrong.
But
you have to put your hand. Like I said, we have reviewed the loan book. We have reviewed investment made. We think that some investment decisions went bad.
Okay, but you have to establish whether they were made in good faith or bad faith.
That is it.
In the days that followed, premises of UT Bank and Capital Bank were rebranded as branches of GCB Bank, with all customers continuing normal banking business at these branches.
I'm currently standing in front of the Capital Bank headquarters on the Spintex Road. We've been here since about 7:30 this morning, and security seems to be quite tight on the compound. We've spoken to some workers, and they've told us, they've informed us that GCB officials are there going through their systems.
We understand GCB has taken over the bank and logos are being changed to GCB. The flag of UT Bank has been replaced with a flag of GCB Bank. It is unclear yet what is going to happen to staff of the company. But earlier on, I engaged some staff who were telling me that, yes, they are kind of scared because they don't know what the future might be. Others too are hopeful that their appointment or their contract are still intact.
The development was part of moves by government through the Bank of Ghana to restructure the banking industry. Analysts attributed the dramatic turn of events in the banking industry to several reasons. Meanwhile, months down the lane, President of UT Holdings and CEO of UT Bank, Prince Kofi Amoabeng, told Joy Business he has learnt a lot of lessons from the collapse of UT Bank and will bounce back stronger.
I don't feel too bad about it. I think it's the state institutions that are working. There's a bit about the process which I felt wasn't necessary, but it's all okay. We're taking our stride and we'll try to do something else.
Any lessons learned?
A lot of lessons. And in life, you never stop learning, so anything which happens, reflect on it, take it in good faith and move on.
Do you hope to come back?
I certainly will come back. I'm Johnny Walker. I keep working.
In the midst of the chaos, the fate of workers in the two banks hung on the balance. As in the words of the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, the Ghana Commercial Bank is not obliged to keep them. At least about 50% of the workers of UT and Capital Banks were projected to be laid off following the acquisition by GCB Bank. Almost a year on, the central bank last week issued a report indicating several high-profile directors of the banks used a carefully spun web of related party transactions to grant huge loans to themselves and their associates. The report also revealed that there was also a significant amount of intergroup lending involving other subsidiaries of the holding company UT Holdings, while connected party loans were made to some companies. A financial autopsy report into the collapse of the Capital Bank also revealed that its majority shareholder used 80 million Ghana cedis of depositors and public funds for his personal piggy bank. Mr. Atuesien, who founded the bank, quote, flouted all banking and risk management rules, unquote, in the management of monies saved there by its customers.
But the nation did have good reason to weep, not just over the potential loss of jobs, but about the loss of a national icon, musician Ebony Reigns.
Thank you. An emotional moment at the State House today. Thousands have gathered to pay their last respects to Ebony Reigns. Her tragic and sudden death, they are still yet to come to terms with. Family members, clergy, politicians, her fellow entertainers and fans came from across the country to bid farewell to the songstress. Tears flowed without control as they filed past the body of Priscilla Opoku-Kwarteng, whom many knew as Ebony Reigns. Here are some entertainers who knew Ebony, sharing their fond memories of her.
We're not so close, but we're very good. We talk once in a while. I remember one time I ordered some clothes from online from the States, and then I bought some for her. She sent, I think, Alan to come and get them. So we are good, you know. And when I had her unfortunate incident, I didn't believe it. I thought it was some promo something, you know. But as for lessons, you know, I don't know which lessons I'm supposed to learn from this. It's unfortunate. I think Ebony, people didn't give her a chance, you know. And I believe if my career had started around this time, the same thing, what they've done to Ebony, or what they are doing to her, is what they would do to me. But me, luckily, during my time, social media was not so strong. So if you hear anything about Menzgold, it has to be radio or TV, and that's it. So we need to appreciate celebrities. We need to appreciate public figures. You know, if there's something we are doing that you don't like, there's a way of saying it, you know. I don't know.
All I say every time is you're supposed to be humble. You understand? What else do they say about her apart from she wearing other stuff? She's humble. She's cool with everyone. So humbleness is the key.
Evangelist Dr. Lawrence Tete is one of the men of God who became close to the dancehall artist shortly before her demise. He addressed the gathering.
All of you musicians here, listen to me and the artist. It is very sad that somebody's daughter is dead and some of you are using it to score popularity points. And yet, this is the time that we should be solemn. This is the time that we know that Obiba we are, and we should not take advantage of somebody's death. This is not the time to look at personality and who is popular and who is not popular. Think about your life and let us be real, because whether you like it or not, very soon, one day, you too will die. I know most of the musicians and the artists are very scared because some prophets said they are going to die. Who is the prophet who said you are going to die? And would he not die one day himself? Everybody would die. In fact, it is very sad that most of you are more scared of dying than scared of going to hell. As for dying, you by all means die. Tell somebody you by all means die.
Many have said that Ghana's music industry will have a hard time replacing a talent like Ebony's as her soul rests in peace.
Residents of Wager experienced an earth tremor in March, the first of the year.
Resident of Wijabawe, Aplaku, McCarthy Hill, and its environs this dawn experienced an earth tremor of unknown magnitude. Now, according to them, the tremor struck around between 3 and 5 a.m. It got people rushing out from their homes, fearing that the tremor probably could trigger an earthquake and the buildings might even collapse on them. They say that the vibration has put fear in them because they don't know whether it's going to recap or perhaps it's just a precursor to an earthquake.
This morning, we were in the house when we felt the building was shaking. It happened about 2 times. The first one went, then in about a few minutes time, then another one passed again. The building shook and we were all running away. Actually, we don't know what can happen next if in case it happens again.
So you say you are scared?
Yeah.
And people started screaming outside. I heard people screaming outside. So before my wife told me that it was an earthquake or something like that. So we came out to verify.
Would you say that those living around here are living in a state of fear?
Yes, I can say that because this place is quite an earthquake zone, which we all know around the Weja sector and along the seaside.
Well, although they admit that this is not the first time this is happening within their environs, they are, however, unwilling to relocate.
Having an investment like this, and then if you are relocating, who is going to relocate you? That's the issue. Where are they sending you to? This is your property. Where are they sending you to? That's another issue.
For the moment of time, I wouldn't say I will consider relocating, but I can say currently it is coming up. But if it's really going to continue like this, honestly, I wouldn't hold my family to stay in such an area like this.
For JoyNews, I am Kwesi Parker Wilson.
The month of April started on an equally interesting note. The resistance to the controversial military cooperation agreement continued unabated.
The protesters, clad in red, converged at the Tamale Jubilee Park and marched through some of the principal streets, ending at the starting point. The 2018 Defense Cooperation Agreement between Ghana and the United States of America, which was ratified by a majority-only parliament last month, permits the U.S. military to use Ghana as a base for staging and deploying forces, even though both the U.S. and Ghanaian authorities insist it is not a military base. It has received wide condemnation from the minority in parliament and civil society organizations in the country. This morning's street march in Tamale is the second protest after a similar one in the national capital. At a rally to climax the march, the protesters renewed their calls for government to take a second look at the agreement. First was the minority spokesperson on foreign affairs, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa.
An agreement of this nature. We are in uncharted waters, and that is why we called on President Akufo-Addo to take his time and have a bipartisan approach towards the passage, towards the approval of this agreement. But President Akufo-Addo has been intransigent. He has been adamant. He will not listen to us.
Minority leader Haruna Idrisu repeated his stance that President Akufo-Addo lost a fine opportunity to address the issues in his national address on the matter.
We are here to express unequivocally our dissent and opposition to the military cooperation agreement. Whether it is a military-based agreement, a military cell agreement, or a Lillipad agreement, it is a defense cooperation agreement. That will allow for military presence, American military presence in Ghana. To President Nana Akufo-Addo, let me remind him that when he had a good opportunity to address the country, he chose to castigate the NDC opposition. When he got a good opportunity to unite the country, to improve the content of this agreement for the good of our country and for the sovereign good and national security interests of our country, to collectively fight terrorism, He chose to use the opportunity to round out the political opposition and NDC. Let him be reminded that Ghana is a democratic state.
Here's National Secretary of the Opposition National Democratic Congress, Johnson Esiedun-Ketia, who was also part of the protesters.
Ghana's interests shall not be compromised. The citizens of Ghana will continue defending the interests of Ghana, no matter what it takes. The people's interests shall not be dampened by any arm-twisting tactics, by any fear-mongering, nor by the anger of any president. Indeed, we are friends and we want to be friends to all other countries. But if we have to make a choice, if we are forced to make a choice between serving the interests of Ghana and serving the interests of any other country, we will choose to serve the interests of Ghana.
The Ghana First Patriotic Front has denied government's accusations that the NDC sponsors their protests, as they argue the group consists of various opposition political parties. Regional representatives from the People's National Congress, the Convention People's Party and the All People's Congress, among others, also addressed the demonstrators. Hashmin Mohammed's report for Joy News from Tamale.
But attention also drifted the Ghana Police Service. Some personnel allegedly assaulted JoyNews reporter Lateef Idris as he covered another protest aimed at getting the Deputy NDC General Secretary, Kwaku Anyidoho, released.
In our very first story, Deputy General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress, Kwaku Anyidoho, is in police custody.
That was the story that drew scores of people onto the streets near the police headquarters here in Accra. Joy News was there.
We are demanding the release of Kwaku Anyidoho. Clearly from the background, or what you see from the background, the supporters of the NDC are not happy. They are not happy with the situation.
But while our reporters went about their work, telling the world about the development, Joy News' Lateef Idris was attacked, not by protesters, but by the police.
He slapped me and then pushed me towards a crowd of police personnel who had gathered at the entrance of the headquarters. And that was it. All of them, not asking any question, what have you done? They all started beating me up, pushed me in. My camera technician, I shouted and asked him to start filming. Just when he raised his camera to film, they approached him, snatched the camera from him and pushed him away. Then they pushed me inside. That was it. Everybody started pouncing on me. They beat me up with sticks, with their legs, with their gun. They used the back of the gun to hit my head.
Those beatings left Lateef in a terrible situation. He's now living with fractures in his skull.
CT scan of my skull and my brain because there's that fear. Once there is a fracture, it could also add.
The police service has vowed to investigate this. The Interior Minister, Ambrose Derry, has apologized for the assault on Lateef.
We would want moving forward to minimize those things, and I'm very sorry about what has happened. I apologize on behalf of the government.
The multimedia group is pushing for justice. Nana Elegba is head of human resource.
What worries me a bit, and I don't know if it's fair to Lateef, is that the final diagnosis is worrying.
And members of the fraternity would not look on unconcerned while one of their own is battered and bruised. GJA President Afer Moni.
All of us are bleeding profusely from the attack inflicted on Lateef. After meeting the IGP, we shall unfold our next line of action.
CEO of the Chamber of Telecommunications, Ken Ashigbe.
The attack on journalists is the attack on the media freedoms of our very selves as Ghanaians.
And colleague journalists sum it all up with this.
Now, if in the course of doing this job, I am assaulted, that is offensive not only to my person, but to the Constitution of the Republic, which guarantees the freedom of my job. Our job is guaranteed in a whole article in the 1992 Constitution.
It's unacceptable and must be condemned in all, in all measures. It must be condemned. Ghana Police Service, you have offended the media fraternity in Ghana.
Every day we wake up for you to protect and serve, but if you can't do that, tell me what's your job work? Now you got a bad rep, you beat and shoot people, then go home to your wife.
Lateef's colleagues at Multimedia also urged the police service to get to the bottom of the matter.
We are expecting that the police administration will be able to bring to book these officers who they employ, who they also sent to control the crowd at the police CID headquarters. We were all here when we had Kwabenya cell break. Within hours, in fact, less than 2 days, we heard the police had been able to find these people who went there. I can't understand. It's taking them 4 good weeks. We're saying that they should bring these people out. Justice must be served. And justice delayed, we know, is justice denied.
It's frustrating to realize that the police are not going at the speed that we expected that they would go to get resolution to this matter. Because it's one thing to be brutalized, but when you find that the persons who are supposed to hold those who brutalize you accountable are not doing that, then it leaves you wondering what is happening. So I think what we can say at this point is that we want justice for Lateef.
If the very people who are supposed to protect us are hurting us, in this manner, I honestly think it's scary. So for me, it scares me a lot if I think about the situation that my colleague Lateef Idris is in now. It really scares me, a lot. They say that the wheels of justice grind slowly, but honestly, I think it's grinding slower than usual. So I say justice for Lateef, justice for my colleague.
We heard stories about policemen being murdered, being manhandled unfairly by, citizens. And in weeks, in fact, in days, culprits are found and they're put to book. So one question I want to ask them is, what's different about this case? This is a journalist. The way he's been treated is very unfair, and I demand justice quickly for Lateef.
We need to condemn this barbaric act by the police administration. I was with him on the beat on that day. It could have been me. We demand justice for Lateef.
He goes to work and returns with head injuries, serious damages to his head, and we don't know how long he's going to have to live with that. We at Multimedia are demanding justice. Journalists must be free to do their work. Journalists must be free to protect the society. Justice for Lateef, that's what we're asking for.
The wait for justice to be served would linger for long and crop up later in the year. Other matters of national interest took center stage. Once more, the presidency, the victim of tongue lashing for employing what many analysts called the largest staff to ever work under the office of the president.
A year and some 4 months ago, did you have a minister in charge of creation of the new regions and his entire staff of more than 30 people? Clearly no. Did you have a minister in charge of special projects? Clearly no. Did you have a project called One District, One Factory, and the entire staff that will man that One District, One Factory? Clearly no. The authorities, you had SADA, but did you have the other authorities? Clearly no. So it is clear from day one that you are not going to have the same figures. Damboche and his staff are not working at the presidency, but they are part of this 998. Usafo Mafu and his staff are not working at the presidency, but they are part of this 998 that has been channeled as if all of them are working at the presidency. That is the point I'm making to you, that all the ministries, all the departments that have been newly created None of them are working directly within the Flagstaff House. So it's not as if when you go to the Flagstaff House, you have 998 people working at the Flagstaff House. But the impression is being given as if when you go to the Flagstaff House, you have 998 people working there.
The president was criticized further when he spoke to international broadcaster Al Jazeera, stating his views on homosexuality. This was compared to a similar interview Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta granted.
Homosexuality, for example, which I believe is illegal and it's punishable. I mean, why is homosexuality still illegal in your country?
These the social, cultural issues, if you like. I don't believe that in Ghana so far a sufficiently strong coalition has emerged, which is having that impact on public opinion that will say, change it. Let's then have a new paradigm in Ghana.
Is that something you would get behind?
I think that it is something that is bound to happen. And when that happens,
what's going to provoke it? What's going to make it happen?
Oh, it's the activity, like elsewhere in the world. Like elsewhere in the world, the activities of individuals, of groups. I grew up in England. I went to school as a young boy in England, and I grew up at a time in England when homosexuality was banned there. It was illegal, and I lived a period when British politicians thought it was anathema even to think about changing the law, and then suddenly the activities of individuals, of groups, a certain awareness, a certain development grew and grew and grew stronger, and it forced a change in law. I believe that those are the same processes that will bring about changes in our situation. At the moment, I don't see that in Ghana there is that strong current of opinion that is saying this is something that we need even deal with. It's not so far a matter which is on the agenda.
One of the major issues, and it's a holdover from sort of colonial Victorian, is the issue of sexual preference in many African countries. In Kenya, to be gay, the LGBT community is illegal. They just want to have equal rights, the same privacy and equality as all other Kenyans do. Is that something that you aspire to for your country?
I want to be very clear, Christiana. I will not engage in a subject that is of it is not of any major importance to the people and the Republic of Kenya. This is not an issue, as you would want to put it, of human rights or this. This is an issue of society, of our own base as a culture, as a people, regardless of which community you come from. This is not acceptable. This is not agreeable. This is not about Uhuru Kenyatta saying yes or no. This is an issue that the people of Kenya themselves, who have bestowed upon themselves a constitution, right, after several years, have clearly stated that this is not a subject that they are willing to engage in, yeah, at this time and moment. In years to come, possibly long after I'm president, who knows? Maybe our society will have reached a stage where those are issues that people are willing, freely and open to discuss. I have to be honest with you. And that is the position that we have always maintained. Those are the laws that we have, and those are laws that are 100% supported by 99% of the Kenyan people.
The opposition NDC, which many thought were handed the biggest meat to chew on, was forced into silence when it emerged that some of its members had allegedly received double salaries while serving in government as minister and deputy ministers. The police commenced investigations into them.
If you multiply what should be my legitimate entitlement, so when you are underpaid, who do you report to? To government or to CID or to police headquarters? Absolutely. So it's an employer-employee relationship. When there are variants, you reconcile it. And I'm saying that overall, what I am entitled to as Haruna, having worked for 4 years for the state, legitimately, per the Edubuando report, does not give me an indication of somebody who owes the state and who could have received double from the state, from the Bwanda Committee report. But you know, Evans, we have to individualize this matter. I don't have access to the personal bank account of every member and every minority member of parliament. But I'm saying that current members in government have received rent allowances, yet they are still in government bungalows. Do you call that double payment? It probably may be an issue of not policing your bank account thoroughly and continuously. Every other month, I should know what comes into my account and how that is disbursed. But I'm saying that even given that, if I'm to get X amount, which is 20,000, and I get Y plus Z amount, which gives me 14,000, use the ultimate figure to do what the accountants call a knockdown. If you know any MP or minister who knows that his full salary as of today, for me, that would be very significant. I'm not aware. I'm only aware that we receive salary advances. Maybe where there's a discrepancy, it ought to be reported and corrected. That can also be another position that you can take. But you don't criminalize. We will submit ourselves to the jurisdiction of any investigation as law-abiding citizens. And we will submit ourselves to any standard of accountability as members of parliament. But we objectively and strongly reject the charge of criminalizing payroll irregularities and irregularities associated with salary administration. We are still in public service. I'm still in public service.
The police service also continued its work of fighting crime as expected. The cases of robberies that had increased in the past month came up once again.
25 robbery cases have been recorded within Oyibi and surrounding communities within the first 2 months of 2018. Out of these robberies, 2 residents were shot dead. Lack of logistics, especially patrol vehicles, impede the police effort in fighting crime within that jurisdiction. Speaking on the sidelines of a sensitization durbar, District Commander Susanna Ejei appealed to the general public, especially residents of Oyibi, to assist her office in tackling crime.
Security is a shared responsibility. You can't sit down and say police is there, soldier is there. That is the traditional way of policing. Now we are in modern democratic way of policing. And the democratic way of policing is the community policing concept. It's one aspect of it. That's me and you. The community holds and then police too, that is the government too holds. And that makes it big. Unlike relying solely on government, who has a bigger eyes. If he hasn't finished all others, it may not reach you as and when you wanted that assistance. So if it is community and the policing, the community will give police information. Without information, police cannot work effectively. So police will give, community will give police information, and then police too will use the information to work for the community members. So that is the subject of the whole.
The municipal chief executive of the Adentine municipality, Daniel Alex Ninoy Adumwa, assured the necessary logistics needed for operation will be provided soon.
We as an assembly also have indicated from our municipal security council to assist them with motorbikes and others, and as we get enough funds, we will go into getting the necessary four-wheel vehicles that they can use for their patrols. These are a few of the things that we intend to do. But over and above everything is discipline that we require on the side of the residents, on the side of the police, the law enforcement agencies, so that we learn to do the right things. And as we do the right things, we can defend ourselves when it comes. And communities also are involved. As the president said recently, he will not allow any miscreant to make this whole place unstable or unsafe. And we would assist as his representatives to make sure that that is achieved.
The police command currently depends on a patrol vehicle from Operation Calm Life, a joint police-military effort to clamp down criminal activities. Reporting for JoyNews, Karen Dodu.
The rainy season for the year 2018 started a bit earlier than usual. As anyone can predict, floods were experienced in different parts of Ghana.
Rainwaters sweep through homes and properties whenever there is a downpour in many parts of the country. Low-lying areas such as Kaneshie, Odona, Aveno typically get to bear the brunt of such heavy rains. The situation Friday was, however, different. Homes and properties sited around the Odo drain were spared any floods. Residents here attributed to a recent dredging exercise. Akoko has lived her entire life at Aveno, only few meters away from the huge Odo drain.
I feel no money wanako problem. Wanako ebahie few she be nije ba actually it's 80 down. And nake abachami insane.
The rain didn't sweep through our homes. It's because of the dredging.
Continue keke eyemia ho achami yesu akwana na kan Friday don.
Say tomo nin mo nye overnight tomo by this time be an etiba fit.
The whole day wonye wo jipo.
Okay.
Ebanye eja hu ke ya railway say.
Okay.
Well sorry but the enyo later koni yo nye wa
in times past, even 2 hours of rain destroy our properties.
We want the
dredging to be frequent so we do not suffer losses.
Like
Akwoko, Niama, a welder here, was also spared. He wants the dredging to be frequent to save homes and properties.
Okay. If it rains heavily, usually this entire area is flooded. Sometimes if it rains from the communities ahead of us, the drain gets full. In that case, we are unable to sleep because you are keeping watch to prevent being washed away. Because if you are very careful. What you are sleeping in the modromo. Charlie, it's normal. Okay. I'm Bachami. She can work in Eliaka Chami. Bochakumi, Keke ne, the cage can bar, Ochami, she most the Kachamele safe can of you. Could they can't be Africo, Adocodo, Niji, Bawoko in the concrete, no can one banico tree farm. She be an animal dromona, Afini, Achami. A hand what you were treat to more first. Terrible, but by God's grace, we haven't witnessed any flooding. Bolas, Besanu only been Bobato. The
verdict on Accra's long-standing battle with filth was, however, palpable. The rains had flashed out onto the street trash that had been lodged in the city's drains, with the Agbogloshi foodstuff market worst affected.
bono ayi kakra market kakra ka yeni container nti ubeba na obi di ball akra to anu obejiska hia me ayi so twetwe obi to ade aye we ya ode ato okọ ye ba ehwe ball omo de abegura we ye betu aka ball container ni ho ntino obeto.
She's been complaining about the sanitation situation here at the market. So she says while they are away at night, some individuals come and then dump refuse right in front of their stores. And she tells us about the drains here in the market which have been choked by filled plastic, organic and inorganic waste. And she says they want authorities to come to their aid and then clear the gutter, distil the gutters, and then provide for them a container.
Yahwesa so mo ba beyi Monday you almost sesa ball enim say Monday no almost sesa ball e dey omo yi a o be sesa akọ ball na da so wo ho me be mi shekambu because atecha na anytime ti me kambu na shem sa na obi answer anytime so obo be says ni ya ahwe ade o mba ha.
The rains left the market simply impassable. Traders, pedestrians and motorists were all affected. Ayariga is a taxi driver here in the market. He wants the roads in the market, which have been left unattended for years, fixed.
President I the command ho e dey say omomwo abobrojifo na yeso drivers no ye free kakra ye ka se ne menina asai yesra ban so omomodem mo e was.
The road is impassable when it rains. This is terrible. We keep spending lots of money on our car parts. We want the road to be fixed because this is the major foodstuff hub in the entire country.
Ene man omoton ade omoboa ye papa if say we did about in 3 days ye got any mu na dey ba ko e high and say ye gata no emuni edigu verse ekwan ne ho a problem is say car ne memmefa time so car ne ba obefa no market day abrahe very congested. The
gutters were desilted only last week, but the refuse wasn't collected, so see the effect. We therefore need help.
The
Meteo Agency has meanwhile predicted more rains, warning Oghanians to be cautious. Komla Adum, JoyNews, Accra.
While relevant state agencies wrapped their mind around how to deal with this perennial matter, tensions were pretty high at the University of Education, Winneba.
There have been many back and forth on the campuses of the University of Education, Winneba, as far as the leadership of the university is concerned. The situation appears to be threatening the academic peace that used to be on the campus of the university. The university has been visited with one legal battle to the other, resulting in the removal of some principal officers of the university, including the vice-chancellor. About a week ago, former UTAC president Dr. Oforibe was reported to be constantly harassed with threats of being ejected from his residence following the impasse. Pro-Vice-Chancellor of the University of Cape Coast and alumnus of the University of Education, Winneba, has described the happenings as an affront to academic peace and wants government to act with the speed of light.
My suggestion to the Minister of Education is that we cannot allow this thing to continue on campus. The Minister of Education needs to intervene. The council should be dissolved and an interim management committee set up to bring sanity on campus. And once the council is dissolved, then because you see that there are two factions, we have the Avoke faction and then the Afubruni faction. And so long as one of them continues as head of the institution, the faction will continue. And so the acting vice chancellor should also be removed, so we get fairly independent people who can bring unity, bring all the factions together to build a united University of Education, Winneba, so that they can carry out the mandate that the government has assigned them, society has assigned them, and students expect them to give them.
Professor George Kwekutoku Odo says the impact of the factionalism on campus has grave consequences on the forward march of the university. He wants what happened at the University of Cape Coast some time ago, where there was a struggle that has some semblance with the UEW case, and the government intervened, dissolved the council and asked the vice-chancellor to step aside in the interest of peace.
I think that we need to learn lessons from the University of Cape Coast in the late 1980s, where the campus was so polarized that teaching and learning was not going on well. And the then government decided to establish or institute an interim management committee to bring sanity on campus. So the Vice Chancellor then was asked to step aside, and the interim management committee was set up. This committee worked hard to bring sanity, to the extent that after the work of the IMC, the first post-IMC Vice Chancellor in the person of Reverend Professor Ajepong was appointed, and then he brought unity on campus, and students had a chance of benefiting from the lectures.
Richard Kwejo-Nyako, JoyNews, Winneba.
President Akufo-Addo in the month of July announced his first ministerial reshuffle. Deputy Chief of Staff Samuel Abu-Jinapor explained what had informed the changes.
It's the right way to go in the interest of our country. He has a responsibility, he has a duty, and his overriding responsibility is to protect the public good and the public interest. And I've just been enumerating to you and articulating the basis for which President Akufo-Addo's government will seem to be bigger than other governments. It's primarily because of two things. One is that the president's inheritance is a unique one. He inherited a poor legacy. He inherited an economy which was almost bankrupt. He inherited huge debt overhangs. He inherited huge legacy debt. He inherited literally every aspect of our national life was running into crisis, whether it came to the protection of our environment, where Galamsey had taken over our administration, our environment and our country, or whether it had to do with our educational system, or whether it had to do with our economy, which was suffocating and growing at 3%, which is unprecedented, the lowest in the history of the Fourth Republican dispensation, whether it had to do with integrity or accountability in government, where the previous administration was involved in endemic corruption. Which any aspect of our national life was in crisis. That's number one, the legacy that he inherited. And two is the vision that he has for this country, and the vision is prosecuting and the goals he set for himself. I say in all humility and modesty that President Akufo-Addo is prosecuting the boldest of visions that we probably have seen in the history of our country. That's a very good question, Evans. And if you are familiar with the way this government has worked since we came into office, I dare say that one of the busiest sectors or organs or departments, for want of a better expression, of this government has been the Vice President's Secretariat. This is the Vice President who literally oversees the whole government. If you care to know, the economic management team of which he chairs it's been turned into a full secretariat of the government. And literally nothing moves or goes on without some clearance with the economic management team. He's a person who himself is supervising extraordinary policies with far-reaching consequences for our country, and formulating policies with far-reaching consequences for our country, and playing a normal supervisory role of many aspects of the government. So it may be the case that in the past other vice presidents had little to do, but this vice president's hands are full, completely full. And I'm not too sure that even the staff he has with Minister Boniface Abubakari's inclusion will be sufficient to deal with the issues on his desk. So he's going to assist the vice president and going to play a ministerial role in the vice president's office to assist him in executing and achieving all the noble but taxing roles which the vice president has to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
The special prosecutor made the news once again. Pressure was mounting on him to head to the court and start prosecuting. He urged calm as he explained inadequate resources meant his office would have to critically take the tough decision of which cases to prosecute and which ones to let go.
Every petition that has come to this office since I assumed office
on the 26th of February 2018 have responded. But there are so many people who just read the news and this fellow said this, investigate it. If you don't have personal knowledge and you are, this office should investigate hearsay. This office cannot investigate hearsay. So petitioners must be people who have personal knowledge of the facts. And no, you can't have resources to prosecute everybody who commits crime. So you make sure that you prosecute only the very serious ones so that it can deter people from continuing to commit crime. Because you have to look at the resources you are spending and then the other areas. So we will prosecute serious corruption offenses. The less serious ones, we will maybe agree to reparations and other things. So the public should not be too emotional and just give the office time. And I can assure them that under our watch, nobody is going to interfere with our work. We will be as independent as possible, subject only to the law, the rule of law, and due process. We will treat crime, as I've always said, regardless of party, political consideration, whatever association, ethnic affiliation, crime will be crime. If you go back to my 9-hour vetting, quoted very senior prosecutors and things who have given guidelines as to what we must do.
Witness protection. Is the office involved? Would the office be involved?
We are yet starting up. Okay. We have investigations of prosecutors. So we haven't got to the time where we will go into the nitty-gritty. In fact, what we are even expecting now is money to start with.
President Akufo-Addo remained optimistic that Mr. Amidu will succeed.
Strengthening the institutions and taking very much to heart the principle that equality before the law means exactly that, equality before the law. President, Prime Minister, Minister, parliamentary, businessman, policeman, we're all citizens first before we're anything. And that therefore when we get into problems of wrongdoing, we should face the consequences. We have a particular problem in Ghana. That is that every time a prosecution is mounted against a high-ranking official, you hear the cry, witch hunting. And it has become a way of protection for senior political figures. So we've now had to devise a particular response and mechanism. We've established an Office of Special Prosecutor that is a permanent official who is independent of the executive, who has the remit to hold all officials, past and present, accountable for their stewardship. And the person who's the first occupant of that office is a leading figure of the opposition. Was a former Attorney General in the government of President Atta Mills, a leader who was my opponent in previous contests for political power. And that is therefore, and this is a person who has an extremely high reputation for his stance on corruption and as a figure of integrity. And we're taking it that if he then puts you in his gaze for an act of wrongdoing, that charge of witch hunting will no longer be available. And we believe that that is a very important step that we're having to take to make sure that the principle of equality before the law in Ghana is truly made meaningful.
A board for the Office of the Special Prosecutor was sworn in later. The Right to Information Bill returned to Parliament amidst hope it will be passed within the calendar year.
Will you pass it by 15th November?
We have as many. I won't say yes, I won't say no.
No, you don't have the luxury.
The reason is...
You imposed a deadline on yourself last week.
Yes.
So myself, Dr. Santi, and the public were hoping that you keep your word. So you can't say, I will not. You said you will.
Yes, the point is that Dr. Yene knows, and Dr. Santi even knows, that when they came before the committee, they proffered a lot of amendments.
Okay.
We have as many as 138 amendments.
Okay.
And we've done about just a few.
We've done it.
And we are still considering amendments as and when they come.
So let's settle this so that we don't lift people's expectations because of the deadline and people are counting. we cannot, based on what you just said, and we'll go to the details of why we can't, pass this by November 15. True or not?
No, what I'm saying is that leader has said that given the exigencies.
I want us to be honest.
Yes.
So when is 15?
Leader has said it.
Yes.
That we will try and pass it by 15.
You're working on the bill.
Yes,
I'm asking whether we can do that within that time.
Possible to pass this bill before 16. But given the numerous amendments that we have, I'm afraid whether we can do it before the 15th. Because on the 15th,
let me just add briefly. Okay, yeah.
On the 15th,
there's a budget.
Yes. And leader has again intimated to us that even if we are not able to pass it by the 15th, we'll take it after the budget has been read. Because when the budget is read, there is an interval
before the debate starts.
Before the debate starts. So during that transition or period, he will see whether we'll try and facilitate and fast track the process in order to have the bill passed. Tentatively, we should expect the passage of the bill by the end of this year.
By the end of this year?
Yeah, tentatively.
Tentatively.
Government has always been committed to. We work through procedures. In 2000, and after the close of 2016, we had practically finished. But we work with time. Once the time elapsed, we had to come and start afresh. So as soon as it is brought back, I'm sure we'll have no difficulty because a lot of the work had been done. The original bill was just like the right was for government and he's giving you a small thing. So we rewrote the bill to make it show clearly that the right belonged to Ghanaians and that there are restrictions only for safety and so on. So that is why we took so long. But I tell you, as soon as it comes back, we'll work with speed to ensure that it is passed.
Investigative journalist Anas Arimayaw Anas did demonstrate later that corruption was not only rife among politicians. The nation had cause to be in grief, the type that makes many across the political divide want to look each other in the eye and say, what a world we live in. Former Vice President Kwesi Amissah-Arthur passed on and was laid to rest.
It is 5:45 Thursday morning. After waiting for close to an hour at the Liberation Circle, the cortege accompanying the body of the former Vice President to the Accra International Conference Center shows up.
Accra International Conference Center has been prepared. Now, two colors, red, black. Earlier when we were there, I counted about 20 marquee tents at the Accra International Conference Center. There are some marquee tents also at the forecourt of the State House. So these dispatch riders and then some family members are accompanying the remains of the former Vice President Kwesi Amissah-Arthur.
Five men are standing very close to one of the giant pictures at the entrance of the conference center. As music is food to the soul, one of the men plays a flute. Soothing as it may sound, it induces tears from already teary eyes here. People from all walks of life have come to pay their last respect to the former Vice President. Many say Kwesi Amissah-Arthur was a unifier.
Mommy, I know it's a difficult time. But
Gloria, Senior, I'm the media coordinator and the office of the president, the former office of the president.
So how close were you to the...
Very close. He was my friend when he was the governor. Like brothers and sisters, he was like a father to me. So when he came as a vice president, it was very closer than before. You know, he's jovial, his jokes. Not like the usual president type of thing, no. Miss him.
Former Defense Minister Dr. Kwame Adukufo believes young people should learn from his exemplary life.
Very decent gentleman, very patriotic, very hardworking. Many people know he was also very honest, and he treated everybody with courtesy. That's why he was so highly regarded. Yes, I hope he becomes a role model for some of the young politicians, so that the adversarial attitude that now is widespread in politics goes down.
The minority members in parliament were at the funeral ground to also pay their last respect. Yes, leader Haruna Idrisu.
He's gone with his humility, he's gone with his compassion, he's gone with his depth, appreciating economics and finance. And for me, essentially, he was a cash flow and liquidity wizard and contributed immensely supporting Dr. Kwesi at the time for the necessary and compelling transformation of the Ghanaian economy.
Aspiring flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress, Alban Bagbin, says leaders of the NDC must emulate the exemplary leadership qualities of Mr. Musa Atta.
We're losing leadership as a party. NDC was known to have strong leadership, strong, very, very focused, visionary leadership. These days, we are like cut in pieces, and we're trying to pick the pieces together. And that is why some of us are even coming up to try to give leadership. The party is poorer, its members are worse off than we started in 1992, and you must be asking yourselves why. You know, it's all because of poor leadership, it's because of poor politics and bad governance.
General Secretary of the NDC, Johnson Esiedun Ketia, says the death of the former vice president is a big loss to the party.
His sense of humor is a very good person who stabilizes every situation where there is heat and anger with his very good sense of humor. And it's been wonderful working with him. I remember him for his time consciousness. It's somebody who respects time a lot, and you know, operating in a Ghanaian situation with that attitude to time brings you in conflict with many people.
Heads bowed, a guard of military men, guns in hand, awaits the procession train of the remains of a late former vice president. After a brief moment of silence, the military band strike their chords and lead the train to the center of a VIP section of the military cemetery. The procession, comprising wife of the late former Vice President Matilda Imisaratha, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, former President John Mahama, and the clergy, accompany the remains to the yard. Shortly after some solemn hymns were sung in a typical military style, the casket of a late VIP, draped in the colors of a Ghana flag, was marched to the tomb shed, prepared to be the final resting place of Kwesi Bekwin Imisaratha.
We pray that you receive him into the arms of your mercy, into the blessed rest of everlasting peace, and into the glorious company of the saints above. Amen.
Military gunshots herald the lowering of a casket into the earth. Former President John Mahama extols the virtues of his former second-in-command. He spoke of how he helped him achieve great milestones during their term in office.
He was a good man, yeah, and we worked together for a long time, from when I was a deputy minister. He had been deputy minister of finance before. But like I said, we worked very closely when I was head of the economic management team as vice president. and he was the governor of the bank, and so that's how we became close. And so it was only natural that after Professor Tamils passed away, he was the most appropriate person to nominate as vice president. And we achieved what we achieved. Very nice gentleman, conducted himself very well, and we're all at a loss for his passing. And so we can just extend our condolences to Matilda and the family. Well, you heard the pastor today at the burial service. He said that if we are to take from his life, then we should, for those who go into leadership, should live a life of integrity, and we should stop the extreme partisanship. We should undertake our politics with some decency. I think that's what we take from his life. Well, a vacuum has been created, but the younger generation is coming up, so I'm sure the people will step in our shoes. We are passing away.
Family of the late Veep says they are grateful to the state and the military for the honors accorded their husband, son, father, and uncle.
Another statesman, J.H. Mensah, passed on and was laid to rest.
The late J.H. Mensah was born on October 30, 1928. He was also the senior minister under President John Agyekum Kufuor's government in 2001. In 1961, he headed the National Planning Commission. Under his leadership, the commission drew up and implemented the 7-year development plan from 1962 to 1969. Later in 1969, he was elected to Parliament and became the Minister of Finance until 1972. In December 1996, J.H. Mensah successfully contested for a parliamentary seat in the Sunyani East District on the ticket of the NPP and served as the minority leader in Parliament. He was re-elected in 2000 when the NPP assumed the mantle of governance after over 3 decades in opposition. The seasoned politician was said to be battling some ailment until he passed on Thursday morning at the 37 Military Hospital. President Akufo-Addo, who visited the family in Accra, described the late statesman as a mentor and pledged to honor him.
Deputy Chief of Staff, Nababo Mamane, said the Ebony. I'm saying the size of the Befia. Na mbichiamo na mama hu se bi atome kame pa ni na nyankopon nhihye na to one extent so opinion of bread do I feel trem no mako hospital ho akohwe no of bread do se na medwe fanse bi onyankopon anu aye na India, our friend is on Raniche, Lombagina Home. Now, all corners so when a dinechi, me can't be papa. Jabana Bani said, Ghana Kunya Kessi Susono, Ghana Bedre, Mina Metiswa, SME BB Stronko, Edition Dunya, Mayenso.
Nephew of J.H. Mensah, P.K. Mensah, described the statesman also as a deep thinker.
I can tell you, in this family, if you take away God, he was everything. He was everything. From the older ones to the very young ones, everybody had a time and a word with him. He brought joy to everybody. He gave us leadership. He gave us a good image. And he never had a bad word for anybody. He always had something good. He was a deep thinker. And you were sure if you went to him with a problem, that had to be thought through. That was the place to go.
J.H. Mensah would have in 3 months turned 90 on October 30.
Even before the tears in the eyes of the nation dried up, residents of Asawasa in the Ashanti region were bereaved. Some residents had been shot by some policemen who claimed they were criminals who had engaged in a shootout with the force.
The 7 gunned down by police in a purported exchange of fire live in the same area at Asawase, a suburb of Kumasi. Their families have gathered here at a common location to mourn their dead, even though there have not been an official communication on the death of their relatives. They are convinced by pictures making rounds in the media. This is not the first time members of the Zongo community have massed up in protest of victims of police operations. They believe it is a calculated targeting of people in the Zongo communities. They are questioning the method of policing adopted by the police.
If the policemen who went there, they are not professional, they are not well trained, then he, the commander, should have better listen to tell them that if you go do this, do this. At least out of the 7, why can't you arrest one? Shoot him when he can run. She shoot him when he can run, then you arrest him. Try to find out, okay, now, if they are armed robbers, if there are more armed robbers there, will they know?
We are calling upon authorities and meaningful Ghanaians that the selective administration of justice on Zongo people is getting too far. So they have been part of the MPP security in Ashanti region. They were never armed robbers. As I'm speaking to you right now, my brother, who happens to be Pat Musa Garden Boy, is having 6 children and a widow wife. Who is going to take care of these 6 children and this widow wife?
They say the police in about 8 months have shot and killed 6 of their youth without showing cause. They are threatening a face-off with the police if tangible reasons are not given for the killings.
As they have our guidance to guide our property and our lives. But if they are killing us, brothers, this is not the first time and this is not the second time, that they will not passport freely inside Zongo or anywhere for us to leave them in peace. If anything happens, we go to retaliate. Anytime any policeman is passing somewhere, he has to know that his life is also is risk.
But you can't wage war against police like that.
Yes, we can't wage war, but they are waging war on gas.
Nanaya Ojima reporting.
Interior Minister Ambrose Derry assured they will get to the bottom of the matter.
I would want us to subject the police branch to critical analysis and also all those who have information to the contrary to come before the committee to give evidence. I've heard people even allege that the police, after killing the people, went to wherever and got guns to come and burn. That sounds quite secretive. But if there's evidence to prove that, we will deal with it. What I can show you is that the police has a record of every gun in possession of the police, and nobody can go to a depot or any police storage system and take a gun without signing for it. And let me assure you, one of the things that has to do with the postmortem report is going to help us tell how were they killed, if they were shot, from which direction were they shot, and all that would have to be put together.
While criticism continued to pour in against the police service, the Education Ministry announced what is arguably the most controversial policy decision in the year under review: double track. Having too many students than the schools could accommodate wasn't the only challenge that government had to deal with. The age-long defilement and rape matters came up strongly.
Love News sources indicate more than 15 students came before the committee with accounts on various ordeal ranging from demand for sex to actual sexual acts by teachers. Even some non-teaching staff are said to be involved in the demand for sex scandal. The school has a long winding fence wall to prevent students from leaving campus without appropriate permission. However, we saw some students still escaping the confines of the school in what some local residents describe as wayward acts. They scale the wall, they have sex with the girls in the bush, they smoke weed, and some engage in spiritism. They come in their numbers and you can't even drive them away. They won't listen to you. They wait for the teachers to get out of sight and then they escape. Some of them defecate in uncompleted buildings here. They are simply unstoppable. Beneath the truancy are accounts of widespread sexual abuse by teachers and non-teachers. Witnesses who appeared before the investigative committee narrated explicit accounts. Here is what a student claims to have told the committee about her teacher. Another student revealed to the committee how she claims to have resisted sexual intercourse with a school accountant who had driven her to a hotel during school hours. We learnt some students have allegedly suffered some level of victimization from teachers after coming before the committee. One female student was slapped from behind by a social studies teacher on grounds she wore unprescribed footwear. Others had this to say. Authorities will not speak to these revelations until they have seen the report of the committee. Reporting for JoyNews, Erastus Asaredonko, Kumasi.
The governing MPP was able to successfully hold elections for its national offices. The opposition NDC in the same month of July held its regional elections. The media continued its role of changing society through positive activism on matters of national concern. Open defecation became the subject matter this time round. Open defecation has been a major challenge in Ghana over decades. Data released by UNICEF and the World Health Organization suggests that Ghana dropped from 22% to 19% in open defecation ratings between 1990 and 2015. This translates to about 6 million of the country's population actively engaged in the shameful practice daily. Deputy Director of Environment and Sanitation at the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources, Kweku Kwansa, charged the media coalition to collaborate with government and other relevant agencies to curb the trend.
We've gotten to a point in Ghana where we have to take the fight of open defecation to the people, and the media is the best channel to really support this agenda. We are not oblivious of the fact that the media supported the fight against illegal mining, and it's been very successful. And we expect that the media support us to also fight open defecation.
Lead partner for the proposed media coalition, World Vision, says it is ready to support the campaign. Ata Ahin is technical coordinator of World Vision's WASH project.
We will be contributing a bit in terms of financial, logistics, and also technical support. Even if it's material, we should be able to support the campaign to achieve its objectives. So yes, we are committed to supporting this, and we believe that other organizations will also get on board so that we are able to protect the lives of children so that they can grow and have life in all its fullness.
Some journalists present at the consultative meeting spoke to JoyNews.
We need a very strong coalition to push together a message so that the landlords will build, so that governments can also support households. So I feel that we need a coalition to push this agenda to make sure that, in fact, if the whole world is saying that Ghana is a truly democratic country, we should have a place to ease ourselves.
As media, we talk for people to hear. It is our job now to tell the people that stop what you're doing. Many people may be doing this because of a lot of challenges. Let's draw their attention to the fact that these things are unhealthy and they need to stop. The media has succeeded in so many previous campaigns. I believe that this is another campaign we must take up and succeed in.
The Media Coalition Against Open Defecation is a collaboration between World Vision International, King's Hall Media, KNUST, and media institutions. Charity Emihil Batel's reports for JoyNews. The month of August took off on a political note in the news space. Former President John Mahama laid to rest all doubt about whether he will stage a comeback or not. JoyNews did its analysis of what Mr. Mahama brings to the table.
Mr. John Mahama, former Member of Parliament for Boli, former Deputy Minister, former Vice President, and former President, has arguably one of the richest political CVs in Ghana's politics today.
We cannot continue to export oil and gas. We need to integrate that industry into our economy. We need to process petroleum products and produce power with the gas.
These notwithstanding, the candidature of the former president puts the NDC in a very difficult, confused state. First, he represents the party's brightest chance at winning the next election, however dim the prospects may be. He is a household name, he has recognition, he remains a superstar, he has the nobility, the charisma, and the political acumen to back a claim for the presidency, and of course, the backs to run a campaign. However, Mr. Mahama appears to be putting personal interest over and above group interest. If Mr. Mahama does win in 2020 and leaves the presidency in 2025, election 2024 will need a fresh NDC candidate without history backing. This is perilous for the party. The prospects of winning the 2020 elections are bleak. It makes sense for the NDC to choose a candidate who can be marketed in 2020 and primed for the 2024 elections. A candidate who can run for 2 terms. This has been the main argument for Spiogabra, a contender in the race. And this is in the overall interest of the party, he says. Another thing that may plague a John Mahama candidature is what another contender, Aban Sumani Bagwin, described as a family and friends government. In NDC circles, Mr. Mahama is heavily criticized in harsh tones for alienating the core support base of the NDC. Many people in the traditional stronghold of the Volta region maintain the region and its people were largely ignored, both in terms of tangible development and representation in terms of appointments in the government. The election results were telling. Mr. Mahama obtained 80.97% of valid votes cast in the Volta region in 2016, compared to 85.47% in 2012. Given that the turnout in the region was low, a 5 percentage point drop of lower turnout was quite significant. This was a protest and vote of no confidence of sorts, Mr. Bagwin insists. It is therefore not surprising that stalwarts of the NDC from the region, like Victor Beho, will openly campaign for Professor Alabi. Also, clearly, Mr. Mahama comes to the ticket with a baggage. While the man was truly loved, his leadership attracted opprobrium for lack of decisiveness and clarity of purpose. Anti-corruption campaigners and civil society organizations are unanimous that he did very little in fighting against graft and ostentation in his government. He will therefore struggle to convince the electorate that he can do anything different. Closely related to this is the view that the president did not deliver to the satisfaction of the electorate, and this reflected on the emphatic rejection of his re-election bid. Mr. Mahama is the overwhelming favorite to win the nomination, but he may lead a fractured party into 2020 and probably leave it in a much worse state when he eventually bows out of the stage, whether or not he gets the opportunity to clean the blot on his rather unblemished record until 2016.
Mr. Mahama will later in the month formally communicate his intentions to lead the NDC when the party opens nominations.
Supporters from across the country thronged the national headquarters of the National Democratic Congress at Adaraka to show support to the candidature of former President John Dramani Mahama. Daniel Jakum led a team of delegates to submit the letter of intent to the party leadership. Leader of the delegation, Daniel Jakum, says former President John Mahama has learnt the lessons of the past.
We will constantly bear in mind those lessons not only during the campaign for flag bearer of our great NDC, but also in the 2020 election campaign, and very hopefully in the government we shall form in January 2021.
The General Secretary for the party, Johnson Asede Nkata, was present to receive the letter. He seized the opportunity to remind the candidate to be civil during their campaign.
We have already quoted our constitution to remind all the contestants about the need to be decorous in your pronouncements when you are on the campaign trail. And we have also pointed at the various sections of the Constitution that deal with our disciplinary code. And if the history of some of us is anything to guide you, we intend to hold your feet onto fire.
Former Deputy Education Minister Samuel Okudzeto-Blakwa believes Mr. Mahama is the best candidate to recapture power for the NDC.
Why do you want to experiment? Why do you want to risk an entirely new candidate who you are not sure of the prospects? So today is an exciting moment for us. We are very excited, we are ecstatic, and we pledge to support the candidature of President Mahama.
Kofi Adams, the national organizer of the NDC, believes the reputation of Mr. Mahama is intact.
See, Mahama's
market is out there. It's like Coca-Cola.
Yeah, but some people are seeking to damage the market.
I'm saying that it's like Coca-Cola. All other category of drinks have come. They have done all kinds of adverts to undermine Coca-Cola, but it continues to be a great brand. So you can do as much as you want to do, but Mahama will remain Mahama. His strength, his everything is out there. It's so clear. It's vividly written. It's there. You will attempt. If you don't take care of it, you will get damaged. It's like hitting your hand against a rock, thinking that you want to break the rock. You will injure your hand, and you will have sore fingers, and not the stone that you are hitting.
For JoyNews, I'm Chrissy Parker Wilson.
While the opposition NDC was busy, the president was also attending to other matters of the state.
In March 2017, after just 2 months in office, President Akufo-Addo cut sword for the construction of a national cathedral. This was greeted with mixed reaction. While some Ghanaians maintained that the venture was unnecessary, others thought it was a step in the right direction. But President Akufo-Addo, perhaps with a glimpse of what the future holds, said he anticipates challenges that will characterize the construction.
One of the significant developments of the past year was the commissioning of an architect for the cathedral project. I'm proud to announce to the nation that we have commissioned one of the most iconic of contemporary global architects and a son of Ghana. Throughout history, what has distinguished the great cathedrals and those with a national character is the broad mobilization of the entire community in support of the building and maintenance of the cathedrals. Before the cathedrals, this was true of the temples and the tabernacle. On Sunday, the 25th of February this year, I visited the Washington National Cathedral to go and worship, and was reminded once again of this truth. The challenge of building Ghana's national cathedral, therefore, relates to the mobilization of our people in support of the project. The broad representation of the Ghanaian Christian community at this event shows the emergence of a national coalition that will arise and build the cathedral to the glory of God.
It took President Akufo-Addo 1 year to put a 13-member committee in place to supervise the construction of the cathedral, with an additional responsibility of raising funds. With ignited debate about the construction of the cathedral, a section of society is asking if it is necessary to demolish structures, including some judges' bungalows, for work to commence. Former Lands Minister John Peter Amewu explains.
In this case is that because of those existing bungalows, there will be a need for demolition. And so what we did, therefore, was to identify, well-built residential facilities of topmost quality. We've invited the judges, together with people from lands and natural resources, and each and every building that was made available for them to satisfy. In fact, in one of the visits, of course, which I was there myself, one of the family was saying, Daddy, this is very beautiful. Why are we still wasting time? We need to move in quickly. So the selection of the new residential buildings, there were even more placed in the better places in terms of construction than where some of those never had a complaint from any of those judges that were going to be relocated.
Another uncomfortable subject in this discussion is the cost of the National Cathedral. A member of the Reverend Asante Entry-led committee, Reverend Professor Paul Frimpong Manso, indicates the cost of the cathedral is not public yet, but admits they are receiving donations.
I don't think I have the figure.
You don't? It's not been discussed with the Board of Trustees?
It is not my responsibility to discuss the cost. Even if it is discussed the Board of Trustees, in a body, everybody has got a responsibility. My responsibility is not to go and talk about costing.
No, I'm not even talking about the responsibility.
No, that's why I'm telling you that It is not the best. But I have told
you know, but
yeah,
you won't tell us.
It is not my responsibility.
Okay, you know how much
What I want to tell Ghanaians is that people are contributing, individuals are donating, and this thing is not only going to be a liability, but it's even going to be income generation.
For now, we just have to wait until the cost is made public.
From the Rich Circle, headed for the Accra International Conference Center, the land stretch on your left, about 6 hectares close to Ghana's parliament, will soon have all the buildings pulled down. The passport office, which is in the center of this enclave, and other structures including bungalows of 9 appeals court judges, are going to be demolished for the project. And from where I stand in front of the Judicial Training School, which is expected to go down too, a bungalow belonging to one appeals court judge sits. The property shares a wall with the training school. In there, some individuals are moving in and out of a room, pulling out shirt hangers, shoe racks and other room fittings. Not too far from the Maritime Authority office, more bungalows, some constructed only 5 years ago, will no longer be here. Still at East Ridge, right in my shot, you can see one of the bungalows belonging to the appeals court judges, which is going to be affected by the exercise, which is expected to pave way for the construction of the cathedral. Earlier, we were at the other avenue, which also housed one of the judges, and we are told that this entire enclave houses at least 9 appeal court judges, and then these bungalows belonging to these judges are going to be affected. The Scholarship Secretariat, also in this enclave, light brick red and cream painted, antiquely built, will also go down. This is the Scholarship Secretariat right here at Ridge. This is one of the buildings that is going to be affected by the demolition exercise to make way for the construction of the 5,000-seater cathedral that President Akufo-Addo promised to be a monument to celebrate Ghana's 60th anniversary. It is expected to have gardens and concave structures housing a chapel, baptistry, music school, choir rehearsal space, as well as Africa's first Bible museum and documentary center. It will also be a house of prayer for all people and will host state occasions, which are usually held at the Independence Square and the Accra International Conference Center. Occupants of these apartments have been served notices to vacate the area immediately, even as the Supreme Court hears the CPP's James Bomfest application to halt the process. The 9 appeals court judges whose bungalows have been affected have meanwhile been asked to move into a rented space, while government constructs a new bungalow at cantonments to be handed over to the Judicial Service by 2020.
Those who may have thought this signaled a bad and rosy relationship between government and the churches, President Akufo-Addo and the GRA had other ideas.
For years, the churches were seen as leading the drive for development. They built and ran schools and hospitals. They led the campaign for good sanitation. Cleanliness was next to godliness. They preached and practiced. But the difficult truth is that once you get into the wealth and prosperity sphere, you necessarily slip and concentrate on being outrageous. It is not surprising that there are calls for taxes to be imposed on church incomes. When you step out of the charity sphere, out of education, and out of healthcare, you're putting yourself in the line of the taxman. Both institutions, that is government and the church, are leading the people, and both hold out promises for a better tomorrow. We have a duty and responsibility to work together to improve the condition of the people.
GRA thrives on intelligence. It's part of our job. Financial intelligence guides us in the work that we do. And it's not everything that we do that we have to go out there and be making noise about them. But then, those who demonstrate that they are having some posh houses and are having a pool of cars in their homes, and they are profit something, we are trailing them, and we are after them. When there are staff of the offices of a church the church workers are like every other worker, any other place. They are subject to payee deduction and social security contribution. And the church, like any other organization, when it gives a construct job, a contracting job for a construction work, it is supposed to withhold tax and then remit to the GRA. When it comes to their tithes and then the offerings, those areas, we believe there are no-go areas for the GRA. And that one is understandable.
The reactions were mixed.
When you go to church, the main purpose of going there is to go and praise God, to worship God. So I don't think it's necessary for churches to be taxed.
The churches are making big monies, because Ghana, almost every house has a member who goes to church, and we pay offerings and we buy things, we buy oils, communion wines, honey, all these things for directions. Of course, they sell to us, and in Ghana here, selling, buying and selling goes with tax, and I think it will be very prudent.
This discussion marked the start of another month of talk about the unending banking crisis and its impact.
Since losing their jobs at the now defunct Capital Bank, life has been difficult for these two former employees. They wish to remain anonymous, so we cannot show you their faces or tell you their names. One of them was an area manager at one of the branches in Accra. He now makes a living as an Uber driver.
Personally, I've been trying to get back into the industry, but I've had a lot of difficulty getting into the industry because, unfortunately for us, it has become like a slur on us. You go anywhere and once they find out you are from Capital Bank, the question is, so what did you do to prevent the collapse of the bank, and what could you have done, and why didn't you do something to prevent? It just gets a bit confusing and quite depressing. So, I mean, since we were let go, we've been trying without success, and for now, we just try to make ends meet by trying to do jobs here and there. Personally, I try to do some transport business, and hoping that it will bring me some respite.
He tells JoyNews it's been difficult providing for his family.
We survive on the proverbial magic of the Ghanaian. You wake up in the morning and you just pray to God that you get something to put on your table.
The other, a woman, is still jobless.
It's not been easy for me. It is just by the grace of God. At times, you don't even know where your next meal will come from, because this came to us as a shock. So it wasn't something that you would say that, okay, yes, you've been working for some years, so you prepared for it or anything like that. But 1 year down the line, you've been living off your savings and everything.
Both of them, like many other former workers of the defunct bank, have still not received their severance package a year after the bank collapsed.
The discussions were completed in January this year. We were hoping that at least by this time, the payment would have been made. But unfortunately, it hasn't happened till now. We have engaged the receiver, that's PwC, on the payments, but till now, nothing has been received and nothing has been said.
Today, people are so down, they have nothing. So we are just asking that whoever is responsible, be it PwC, be it BOG, be it the government of Ghana, please reach out to us, help us. We need our exit space.
Former board chairman of the collapsed bank, Pastor Mensa Otabel, has come out to sympathize with workers who lost their jobs. In a statement, the founder of International Central Gospel Church, ICGC, expressed concern for the well-being of the former workers and their dependents. But those who are still jobless and feeling the devastating impact of the collapse want Pastor Otabel to do more than just express sympathy for their predicament.
Based on what he himself said in the statement, that he commiserates with the staff, I would also suggest that if he can use his good offices to help fast track or speed up us trying to get our exit pay, it will be extremely appreciated, because as of now we are at our wits' end, and given that 5 banks have also come into the same soup, 60 days down the line, some people may be coming to join us. And what happens then? And that is the point of fear.
Two other financial institutions, Menzgold and Midland Savings and Loans, had their own challenges to confront.
As the aggrieved customers assembled for the start of the demonstration, they shared personal stories of how terribly they have been affected by the failure of the company to pay them. One of them says she invested 400,000 Ghana cedis of money belonging to an orphanage she operates.
I can't even sleep. I can't sleep. My case is becoming a police case. A police case because orphanage money is involved. They should give us our money.
How much are we talking about here?
Here, we are talking about 400,000.
I'm in my final year of AIT. Because of this, I have not gone to school the whole of my trimester. Where is the money to pay for the school fees?
People put their money there for chemotherapy, people, stroke patients. I know of one woman who comes there almost every day. Almost every day. Her money is with Menzgold. She just wants some part of her money to buy drugs. They are not giving it to her. She's in sick. Whenever I see her, I feel pity for her, even though I also cannot help her.
The demonstration itself attracted the young, the old, of both sexes, with their placards doing the talking for them. Their first stop was at the Economic and Organized Crime Office, Yoko, where the chants got louder. It was the Accra Hasselfolk Park that they handed over their first petition, which was received by the advisor to the central bank governor. Benjamin Amwa promised the bank would intervene.
I want to take this opportunity to urge you to be patient and that we will do all we can in collaboration with the other stakeholders and related authorities and make sure this is resolved amicably.
The petition meant for the Information Ministry was received by Deputy Director of Human Resource, Kofi Oheneba Enin.
It's very unfortunate that this issue has happened. So I've been sent here to take this petition. And definitely you make sure, the minister, that this petition gets to the president and the right quarters in the next line of action to take.
The customers were, however, not convinced by the assurances. For them, government could show a lot more commitment if it could cause the arrest of Menzgold CEO.
Number one is not above the law. If he's doing something that is not good, let's arrest him and bring him. Number one is not above the law, and we need our money.
Today, Menzgold is treating us as criminals. We are so-called cherished customers. We have now become what? Criminals. Criminal customers. How on earth? Now, if you are entering Menzgold office, you need to get security clearance.
Their next line of action, according to chairman of the Coalition of Aggrieved Menzgold Customers, Timothy Binob, will be to submit petitions to foreign embassies.
We are here today telling Menzgold that from today, effective from today, if they don't pay us, another demonstration is coming on. And that demonstration will be petitioning the embassies, the foreign embassies in Ghana here.
They say should government fail to address their concerns in 2 weeks, they will take their picketing to the offices of the various agencies involved. Nancy Emefa Tredosi, JoyNews.
One school that many beneficiaries of the free SHS and its associated double track may consider attending in later years is the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Its management had taken a controversial decision to turn some halls into mixed ones.
Both male and female students are filing into all three single-sex halls, converted into mixed halls in a bid to secure accommodation. Armed police and military men, numbering about 40, augment school security to curtail any group or individual agitation. University Relations Officer Kwame Yeboah Jr. outlines security measures in place.
We are in contact with the security of the country and the region. We also have our own security, and as I indicated earlier, we have put in certain measures. We have cameras on campus in the halls. we have access into the halls are controlled. You enter with a card. So not everybody has access to the hall. Even though if you want to enter, you can if you don't have the card. The security guy there would ensure that the person entering has a right to enter. An unauthorized person wouldn't be allowed into the halls. So we've put in security measures, yes.
The main accommodation facility at Katanga has been allocated to female students, whilst their next will take the males only. One of the two twin towers in both Unity and Africa halls will be allocated to opposite sexes. Mr. Ebua reiterates the university puts interest of students above any group or individual. Female students will not be allowed to be recorded, but they say they are unfazed by threats issued by alumni due to police and military presence. Reporting for Joy News, Nana Aljima, Kumasi.
Still in the Shanti region, some of the 7 individuals who had been shot dead by police in Asawase were laid to rest.
A sober mood at the Kumasi Central Mosque as the body of Abdul Hanan Bashir was prepared for burial. Abdul Hanan and 6 others were shot and killed by police personnel who said they were armed robbers.
In members of the committee of inquiry, that they'll come out with the truth. We sincerely believe that our sons were not armed robbers. The burden of proof therefore lies on those who say they are armed robbers. The information so far that we have offered to the committee, we are convinced that victory shall be ours.
Currently, the Commission of Inquiry is in session and the pathology report is almost out. And from the whole the thing is going, the family decided that we have to give them the final rest. Because as a Muslims, normally, you know our culture, we don't leave dead body for a long time. We can go ahead and bury him.
Affected families are demanding justice as they wait for the committee investigating the incidents to present their findings. Family, colleagues and friends describe Abdul Hanan as an honest and respectful man.
That was not the only farewell in the month of August.
Dear friends and colleagues, saying goodbye is never easy. I have spent most of my life working with the United Nations. I feel it is my home. I can think of no other job in the world that would have been so rewarding. And I have met wonderful people along the way and made many friends around the world. It has been an extraordinary privilege to serve as Secretary General these last 10 years. I believe we can all feel proud of what we have done together in that time to address some of the world's most pressing challenges. Sometimes we have shared the exhilaration of success, such as winning the Nobel Peace Prize in 2001. At others, we have faced bitter trials, especially the tragic loss of 22 of our friends and colleagues in Baghdad in 2003. Without your support, I could not have achieved what I did or got through some very difficult times. And through it all, you, the staff, have maintained your professionalism and commitment and remained true to the spirit of the Charter and the principle of an independent international civil service. That principle remains central to the UN's mission, and I know you will continue to defend it. We now welcome a new Secretary General who will bring fresh energy and new ideas to the task. I know that he will find in you, as I have, the most talented, dedicated, and conscientious staff that anyone could hope for. As we begin the next phase of our lives, Nan and I will still be with you in spirit. I have often said that you can take the man out of the UN, but you can't take the UN out of the man. Thank you once again, my dear friends and colleagues. I will count on you to carry on your indispensable work, and I wish you all success in the years ahead.
I think that the Ghanaian people expect that a man of his stature and record should be given full honors by the state of Ghana. So I have decreed that he should have a state funeral in his honor, in his memory.
At the office of the Electoral Commission, not only goodbyes were said, some new officers were welcomed. We are here at the head office of the Electoral Commission at Ridge, and just a while ago, a meeting of the commissioners ended. All 7 of them met. The newly appointed 4 commissioners and the old 3 met to acquaint themselves with the organization, with what has been happening, and essentially to abreast themselves of the happenings and workings of the Electoral Commission. It is, of course, the first day at work for the 4 who were sworn in yesterday by the President Akufo-Addo. Of course, Jean Mensah, who is now the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, was here. I saw her move a car just a while ago. Her 2 deputies were also here, Mr. Samuel Tete and Dr. Bosman Asari. And of course, the Abrefa, who is also a member of the commission, was also here. So all 7 of them met, and the meeting ended just a while ago. It's just a few minutes to 5 p.m. For the close of business here at the Electoral Commission. And as you can see, a lot of them are now moving out. We tried to get a word from them, but they wouldn't speak to us. They are hoping that they will be able to settle down quickly, latest by Monday, so they can, as it were, hit the ground running, because you do know that they have a lot on their plates, and so they want to run things very quickly. Again, we spoke to some of them, and they told us that they have not yet handed over at their institutions where they used to work before the appointment. And so this short period, hopefully by today, tomorrow, latest by Monday, they hope to be able to conclude and successfully hand over at their respective organizations. And then they can settle in to begin work proper here at the commissions. But one of the things that they are also going to do is to immediately appoint a director of electoral services, because until yesterday, Mr. Samotete was the director of electoral services and now a deputy director, a deputy commissioner here at the Electoral Commission. So it's been a normal day for the staff of the Electoral Commission. I must say, when the commissioners, the new commissioners, arrived here at 12 noon today, they exchanged pleasantries with some of them, and these are people at the top hierarchy of the structure here, and just on their way out they also did same. So that is the latest we have here from the head office of the Electoral Commission at Ridge. The month of August ended on a high traditional note when the Asante visited Chebi.
Tradition and culture of the 2 kingdoms were on display before President Akufo-Addo, former President Rawlings, government officials, and thousands of people who converged at Ofori-Penin-Fie. The meeting of the 2 traditional leaders, who both ascended their stools in 1999, dispelled long-held rumors traced to competition over superiority. The Asantehene accepted to participate in a program following a similar visit to the Minsha Palace by the Ochehene Amwetia Ofori-Penin. Their entry to the Deba grounds was in itself a display of culture and elegance. Addressing the gathering, the Ochehene underscored the importance of education and encouraged the president to ensure sustainability of the free senior high school program despite challenges the program is facing now. He dismissed any rift between Asantehene and himself.
No frata ye kana sem na suku hu hia ni yie uye no fiwa me a me nua na say tutu obedi ade ni anebota na de ne se obeye educational fund na wama sebi ahiafo a woni bi atumi akosku sana ye man panyin ono nso odi sa free SHS baaye se omo hia ensi obi akwan so obesua de
no krano waye na bia sebi on tiase eto hompe nanso ogina pintin so kwan bia so ne bota si nanim se obe na kwada bia sua de na ngoma de ko utrim a obi antumi nyi fi utrim enti e bona baso ne abona na so etutu so abaso na nuado a eda entem no eho hia meni minua na otufo kasa na ese akwantu e de ehwe wani mu na ye magana fo hu se nyina nipa fia o sina na akwantu ye frɛ no nkabom akwantu ye bana gana fo hu se anya se ya mu atete na ye hyemu kena ne amagana fo hu se santeman ochiman eni gana nyina ye nipa fia.
The Asantehene Otumfo Osetutu, who led a large entourage made up of 21 paramount chiefs, traced the history between the two tribes. He indicated his visits only cements the cordial relationship between the two.
Na wono so wofa so wokɔ hia wobe sɛde menua kan no wokɔ osi ha wokɔ nkran wagina ha na di nkɔmɔ ansa anu akɔ sara na menua pokɔ so beto aso na no na ase ne sɛ ya ye ka sɛ achim ye nyina refri adanse ne ba ha ye mfri ba biara ye fri adanse na kwantuo mu ane ba amwati apanyi wone kuma ofurikuma wono so kɔtena akuapi ma ɔkyekyereye ye ka de a ɛhɔ nam nya obiri kɔmfo ɛhɔ nam nya asase de obiri kɔmfo ma menya sikadwa ɛno nyina epom ha ya mia mu kura sɛ tu odika me bakra no ɛno so akwa mu nam bepie yansa nam namu ansa na sabie so na ogya me kwan am de ko kuma se amwati apanyi ni kuma eba womunua no wofenso adwoso ya ofa ase manso nkwata ye gya nyina ho wom dati kuma se ye dat po asantemem eno no wote ha ene kuma so kodue ho enti ntuso ebe na demu bio ampa se menua eba ene me ba ye mote kakra ye di nimfi aduonu ekwa aduonu ne ne bia ne ye mai nanso na achia ne mui nyame no anhyehyɛ pa sikadwa anhyehyɛ pa no ochima akonwa anhyehyɛ pa na ama ye nyina yasa abaya.
Elton Bobe's report for JoyNews.
The internal contest of the opposition NDC took center stage in the month of November. What got many talking was the nomination and filing fee of 420,000 announced by the party. General Secretary Asedu Nketia justified the amount.
Please, how much is too much? Can you tell us how much is too much? Nobody knows. What are you comparing with? So far, the questioner doesn't appear to give us the comparison. But let me tell you, when we say that there are hardship, it means cost of living is high. But somebody must pay the cost of running the elections. Who is going to pay? I have not declared to be a presidential candidate. So those who have declared to be presidential candidates must pay the cost. Yes. Yes. So, and if you compare these monies against the cost of organizing the activity we are talking about, you see that the party will still have to raise money to supplement whatever will be accruing from these filing fees. So I don't see how anybody can say that it is. If you want to compare us to MPP 3 years ago were charging 500,000. We were all with you here in this country. Did you complain? And 3 years on, we are charging 400. And you still say ours is too high. In fact, when we talk about social democracy, it is not equivalent to poverty. You see, many people have some wrong understanding of what social democracy is all about. Social democracy is not poverty. Social democracy means that the market must work. The productive forces in the economy must be released to achieve their potential.
Meanwhile, the NDC MPs were busy in Parliament hoping to lay hands on the report on the Commission of Inquiry into the creation of regions.
To conduct a surgical operation in the dark, because to understand and appreciate the constitutional instrument, the basis will be the report, the findings, and its content. Having no idea whatsoever what the constitutional instrument conforms in material respect to the recommendations of the Justice Brobe Commission report. That's why we are raising this, because there's a CI before Parliament. And those of you who understand the hierarchy of laws, when it's an LI, you relate it to the Parent Act. When it's an executive instrument, that is in the executive corridor. When it's a constitutional instrument, you relate it to the Constitution, but in this matter specifically to the Justice Brobe Commission report. We recall that President Nana Addo Dankwa appointed a Commission of Inquiry under Article 5 of the 1992 Constitution of Ghana to inquire into the demand for the creation of new regions and to make recommendations on all the factors involved in the creation or alteration of a region or the merger of regions. Indeed, Article 5(4) of the Constitution provides that where the Commission of Inquiry finds that there is a need and a substantial demand for the creation, alteration, or merger, it shall recommend to the President that a referendum be held, specifying the issues to be determined by the referendum and the places where the referendum shall be held. So even to know the places, we need to know what the Commission of Inquiry and the good people of Ghana, in the interest of openness and transparency, need to know. We demand transparency and we demand that the report be published. It is in the interest of good governance, openness, truthfulness, and transparency that the report of the Commission of Inquiry is made public, to enable the nation verify that the constitutional instrument before Parliament is truly reflective of the contents of the Commission's report and its recommendation. It is the right thing to do, and we urge President Nana Addo Dankwa to keep faith with his promise for a transparent and accountable governance. Making the Justice Brobe Commission report public will be an important benchmark on which similar matters will be modeled in future for the constitutional development of our country. Again, making public the Justice Brobe report will help shed light on the scope of the proposed referendum. What is the scope? Where does it cover? From which boundary to what boundary? The issues have been debated vigorously in the public domain. As to who is entitled to vote, we need to know. What name to give to a region, we need to know. There should be nothing secret about a report of this nature, and we demand full disclosure in the public interest. In any case, the Commission is held public sittings.
The minister responsible for regional organization, Dan Botre, had a lot of work at his desk. He had to do more in explaining what was required to have a region created.
The CI 109 will mature by the end of today, Parliament sitting today, and therefore from tomorrow, the Commission will have the green light to go about. It contains transfer of votes, voting by proxy, the symbols or colors, and all others that guidelines that we normally have when we are having general elections. Because this is a specific election referendum, there's a special CI for that. And that one too is the duty of the Electoral Commission to educate Ghanaians about the CI when it comes out. So they will do that. The budget, the 2019 budget and economic policy has allocated 20 million Ghana cedis as seed capital per the new regions for the provision of critical infrastructure to enable the new regions to take off smoothly. 20 million Ghana cedis. That's just a seed capital for them. So if they succeed, they have that one to start setting up and taking of their regions. So they have that. I'm sure those who are campaigning will bear that in mind. That if they succeed, yes, you have 20 million cedis to start working.
The individuals pushing for the new regions continued with their campaign. The possible split of the Volta region is one area that has seen opposition from various quarters. Some residents of the northern part of the Volta region held a news conference in Accra to fight off claims that the split of the region could negatively affect unity amongst the residents.
The chief of Kete, Major Retired Abu Safiano Baba, says some persons from the southern part of the Volta region have constantly kicked against the creation of the Oti region. He says there's nothing unconstitutional about the processes that have been observed so far towards the creation of the region. He further stated his people are campaigning to ensure that they secure more votes in the impending referendum scheduled for December 27 to meet the constitutional threshold.
We are using the opportunity to advise certain individuals and groups who do not hail from the Oti enclave but are bent on thwarting this noble project to give peace a chance. The people of Kete are largely Muslims who have coexisted with people of Kantankofri and Krachukurum for centuries since the slave trade and then nation formation in the northern Volta basin. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, on our concern, it will be recalled that quite recently some of our compatriots from the southern part of the Volta region have amplified their voices in kicking against the creation of the proposed Oti region. Their posture comes to us as very sad and unfortunate, especially because they are in no way affected by the creation of the Oti region. Neither have they called for it. We initially decided not to respond to their opposition because we thought it wasn't necessary until some of their paramount chiefs waded into this fray. We therefore felt compelled to come out and let the people of Ghana appreciate our real motive and also to use this opportunity to reiterate our unwavering commitment to the Oti project.
The people are challenging their colleagues from the Southern Volta who claim to have issues with the creation to tell Ghanaians which of the constitutional provisions of Article 5 or any other constitutional article have been breached.
Contrary to the views expressed by some chiefs, there is absolutely nothing unlawful or unconstitutional about the processes that have been observed so far towards the creation of the proposed Oti region. The creation or alteration and merger of regions, as we all know, is guided by the very elaborate provisions of Article 5 of the 1992 Constitution of the Constitution of the Republic, which spells out all the detailed processes to be followed and to achieve that end. It is without doubt that as we speak, all those explicit provisions have been strictly adhered to by His Excellency the President, who received countless petitions from us, the people of the northern part of the Volta region, calling for the creation of the Oti region, which petition contained more than enough justification for the creation of the proposed Oti region.
The indigents of the town have called on the Christian Council and the Peace Council to call the people against the creation of this new region to order.
The Electoral Commission also spelled out the modalities for the referendum.
All applicants who, for one or two reasons, have actually relocated, that is, they have moved from one area to the other and would want to take part in the referendum, will have the opportunity to go to the district office to transfer his or her vote. it is the same as proxy, probably because on the day of the election, you cannot actually be there physically because you are sick or you'll be away. Applications for proxy as well as transfers are to be done in the carved out areas, which are Ahafo, Bono East, Savannah, Northeast, Oti, and Western North. Any applicant who would want to transfer his or her vote from the non-carved areas to districts in the carved areas can do so from the 2nd up to the 6th. We need to take into consideration those who are qualified to transfer their votes. And they are people who have registered outside the regions that I have mentioned, that is the carved out areas. And they also have been resident in any of the districts within the proposed region for not less than 12 months.
The Commission briefed Parliament on the preparedness to hold the referendum.
Officials of the Electoral Commission, led by Jean Mensah, met members of the Special Budget Committee of Parliament, led by the Majority Leader Seiche Mensah-Bonsu. A member of the committee, Yan Frimpong Ado, tells JoyNews they assure the committee that all is set.
From the Commissioner herself and her deputies and all the officers there, there's every indication that they have a roadmap which they are going to prosecute to the letter. And as far as we are concerned, everything that they need, especially budgetary allocations, everything has been given to them. Whatever purchases they want to make, they have the latitude to do it. And so far so good. Everything is on course that we are going to have the referendum 27 December.
On the floor of Parliament, the Minority Leader, Haruna Idrisu, raised issues with the constitutional instrument that has been laid here in Parliament, which would be the legal basis for which this referendum would come off.
If it was an LI, we will relate it to the Parent Act in order to understand the issues thereon. Now that the constitutional instrument is based on the Commission of Inquiry the President appointed under Article 5, we demand that the report of the Justice Brobe Committee be made available to Parliament and in particular to the Committee of Sanitation Legislation to guide their work.
On the 30th of October, the constitutional instrument for the creation of the regions was laid. But Mr. Speaker, I haven't seen any colleague who has got a copy of that document yet. So I'm not sure whether we can assume that the 21 days is counting. If nobody has got a copy, then maybe we should reconsider the fact that maybe then it's probably not late because nobody has got a copy.
Mr. Yan Frimpong Ado is insisting that there are a lot of legislations that have come through Parliament that MPs have not seen copies of, and they've gone ahead to mature.
Me standing here talking to you right now, it hasn't come to my pigeonhole, and you don't have to see it. It's from the table office and leadership. Because a lot of things are laid here. That's you don't see copies. But once they are counted, because at the end of the day, it will come back to us for us to look at it.
I'm surprised my colleague will say that, because to the ordinary person watching this program, they think that when constitutional instrument or legislative instrument are laid in Parliament, every member of Parliament automatically gets a copy. So I think it's the wrong thing to give the impression that certain bills are in the House, members of Parliament are aware, and then when it matures and we find fault with it, then people say, well, but you were all along, what were you doing?
High schools across the country started receiving first-year students in the month of November and saw the students placed on the green track being the first to take their turn. On the financial front, gold dealership Menzgold made the front pages once again. Customers hit the streets to demand payment of their outstanding dividends.
Desperate, Menzgold customers have once again besieged the company's Jolo office in Accra. The place has become a scene where angry clients go to vehemently negotiate to collect their investment funds and also vent their frustrations. The once loyal customers of Menzgold pointed to another broken promise from management made in October 2018. That promise was to pay 5% of locked up investment of clients who registered for their new online trading platform. But again, this did not happen.
The guy tricked some of us. I paid the money, and up to now, that 5%, I haven't got that 5%. And the migration time also has ended. Look at me. I have children. My wife, I have a lot of people that are looking up to me. And now, look at me. The 5% too is here. Instead of them to come and pay me, they are not paying.
But for these police officers stationed at the premises, the situation could have gotten out of hand, as angry customers had planned to block the roads and burn tires. These gentlemen sustained some injuries in a scuffle with the police.
I was here this morning and the police has tortured me. Now I can't even drive my own car. Look at me. Look at me. Let me show everything to you people. You understand? All these marks. I can't move even my own car. How can I live in my own country and become a slave?
Some also share their untold stories of how difficult life has been for them.
Because we want people to die because of this thing. My mother, she's dying. If she's standing right in front of you, she'll just be urinating on herself because of this money. Because of this money.
Is it her money that is there?
Yes, it's my mother money and my money.
Our families are dying. As I stand here, I have 3 kids. I can't pay school fees. They are in private schools. I can't pay their school fees. They haven't written their exam this term. And we need them to come to our aid. Other than that, we'll do whatever we'll do by legal or foul me.
Yes, Reno. Yadinyami Reno. Say, Omumba Samuwe Mumaye. Mimi Mamia did 94 years. And I lost my sister. And Sikawe Yadima. For these few months, I've gone through a lot. Yes, Reno. Ombra Samuwe.
Meanwhile, management of Menzgold has yet to respond to any of these claims. These customers have vowed to push and protest until something positive happens.
Owners of luxury vehicles that were to join other vehicles on the Medina-Adenta highway had their own concern.
Nearly 200 people have died trying to cross the Medina-Adenta highway. The last 2 pedestrians who were knocked down on this stretch of road were knocked down some 2 hours, 35 minutes ago. Here, one of the junctions is available for pedestrians to use. This is one of 6 footbridges which could significantly reduce this number by providing an alternative way for residents of the area to cross the streets safely away from the speeding traffic below. But as you can see, these bridges are far from complete. Residents say they've had enough. Here's Assembly Member for West Adenta, Rashid Osebonsu.
I'll be honest with you, it's terrible. We are afraid, we are scared. Why? You just want to use this road to have access to somebody and you are shivering. Why? Because the cars are moving too fast, there are no traffic lights, there are no road markings, and even at night, there are no street lights, you understand? So the rate at which people get hit on this road, it scares everybody. Now our major challenge now is that even when you are hit and you don't die, other cars will make sure you are kind of stepped upon or smashed. So just as I've been saying, it is about time government come to our aid. The traffic light, the street light, the road markings, something critically has to be done. Because now people at a point in time would have problem engaging in economic activities. Because let's assume you have a shop and you want to sell and your shop is at the other side. You'll be scared to go. And it will also affect you, your livelihood. So the whole of the community is scared. We the youth in particular are worried because we've lost more of our members. I don't know if you are aware, just about an hour and a half ago, a kid coming from this school, Totutin, was knocked down.
The director of bridges at the Ministry for Roads and Highways told us on the Super Morning Show on Joy FM this morning that these 6-foot bridges will be completed by end 2019.
We are using the fastest route possible in the procurement process. So we are going for the sole sourcing method. And this would have to go to the PPA for approval, and that is not in our control. We expect that by the end of this month, all that would be behind us, and we'll have a contractor to move to site. We expect all the 6 bridges to be completed by end of next year. But at various stages of this period, we would have some completed. So we are not going to wait till the end of next year to have all 6. Within 6 months, we could have the first one, but we expect that by the end of the year, we should have all 6 bridges.
Residents like Michael Ni Amate are incensed. Michael has lost 3 of his close friends because of the absence of these bridges.
So should we keep on dying till 2019? That's what I want to know. Should we keep on dying? Just a few minutes ago, a child is being hit right here. Yesterday, Joy FM was at Bingo to interview just yesterday, as you can see. And even a day before, the Friday, the assemblyman had an interview. Just that night was the night that we lost Atta. And just yesterday, Joy FM was at Bingo spot to interview us at Adenta. And then just this afternoon, we could hear. Just look at this. Just look at, whilst this thing is supposed to be constructed for them to cross over. Just look. Because we wake up every morning to hear death. I wish one day we could wake up in the morning and hear that the road signs are being fixed, the traffic light is on, the road marks are in, the reflectors are working. But no, we only wake up to hear death.
I was knocked down here 2016. I went to see my boss over there and I was coming back. Light was not working over here. The traffic light was not working. So upon looking at the highway, what a car is coming, there was no car coming. And then I decided to cross the road. Just to finish the way, I didn't see anything. A car knocked me down. All that I could realize was that the next morning, I was at the hospital at Legon. Who took me there? I don't know. It was divine. A police officer got here and then sent me to hospital. This traffic light has been here since. It's not working. And you see, it's like nobody cares.
Daniel Daze, Joy News, Adenta.
The impasse between management and students of the KNUST got to extreme levels as students rioted, destroying properties. The school was closed down. Its council dissolved, with UTAG threatening to demonstrate if government fails to restore the council. Member of Parliament for Ayawaso West Wagon, Emmanuel Ejako, passed on while on a trip abroad for treatment following a short illness. Power supply that had been enjoyed in most parts of the country was becoming relatively unstable. Many feared Dumso was gradually returning. Energy Minister John Peter Amewu spoke on the matter.
There were no shortage yesterday as available generation was 2,611 megawatts against peak demand of 2,330 megawatts. Ladies and gentlemen, today, 26 November 2018, Nigeria gas would start flowing at a low rate of 30 million cubic standard feet of gas, which will ramp up in a few days to about 80. So the system of supply in terms of gas from Nigeria has gradually been stabilized. Our major challenges, ladies and gentlemen, has been the incomplete reverse flow project to allow gas to flow from the east, from the west to the east. As you are aware, we have a lot of gas that's stranded up in the Takoradi area. And there will be a need for this gas to be conveyed through the transportation system to Tema to feed on some of the generators. We had to fast track it through a bypass which has been completed but not connected to the West African gas pipeline yet. This is as a result of the authority, which we call the WAGBA, which had not fully come out to agree on the tariff. In an earlier discussions, they intend to put the tariff price at 3.2 MMBTU, while the ministry insists on $1 MMBTU. The discussion has persisted for weeks, but I'm happy to announce that the authority on Friday, November 24th, 2018, the West Africa gas pipeline, the regulator, has finally issued the final tariff notice of $1.7 per MMBTU.
On the health front, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia announced a drone delivery service for blood and critical medicine. The drone deal will, however, face stiff opposition from the minority in Parliament and the Ghana Medical Association.
Parliament on Monday suspended approval for the deal with Fly Zipline after the minority claimed it's inflated by 600%, it's criminal, fraudulent, and amounts to causing financial loss to the state. Addressing a media briefing in Parliament House, Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Anthony Siasari, defended the deal.
Under Section 41 of Act 663, we can go for sole sourcing if the company that we want to deal with is the only sole company who has got that capacity and they are the only people who do it. And as I explained at the beginning, so far as we are concerned, we went around and Zipline is the only company who has done it and proven it and done it in the African terrain. Even all over the world, there's nobody doing distribution of medical products because it's very important that the products that they are delivering are also not destroyed. So they build air vacuum and everything so that, and as I said, what somebody will ask also for after 4 years, what happens? And as I said, at 4 years, we'll sit down with them. The relationship will be so good that even maybe after 4 years, Zipline Ghana has become purely Ghanaian company, where Ghana will be doing it at themselves.
Deputy Information Minister Pius Hajide says government will use its majority in the House to push through the deal despite the minority's objection.
The NDC minority is ill-informed and misguided on this particular matter, and I think that they should eat the humble pie and beat a retreat and apologize to the good people of Ghana because clearly they are uninformed. The Vice President of the Republic has a duty to lead in the, if you may, restoration agenda. I mean, to rescue Ghana from the mess that was inherited. And so indeed, if the Vice President takes leadership in ensuring that we have a system or we develop a system that can ensure a quick and timely delivery of essential health medicines and blood to several places that hitherto are or have been inaccessible.
But minority spokesperson on finance, Kesela Forsen, says the money would be better invested in other health sector initiatives than the drone project. He wants President Akufo-Addo to call his vice to order.
But our concern still remains concerns, because obviously we raised major concerns that they failed to address. Our first concern, we wanted to know the price of the drones, because in the agreement they said that one distributing center, which is the center that the drones will fly from, is going to cost $1 million. And then, but it's in the agreement. I'm quoting from the agreement, so I'll give you a copy of the agreement after I finish speaking with you. The agreement is that that investor is making profit of $24 million in 4 years, yet that equipment does not belong to us. My argument is simple. Let us find out. Lucky for us, they gave us the specifications of the drone. I've done a quick of the envelope analysis by going out there and then look at the cost of the drones. Look, all what you need to do is ability to read and write and type. So you can easily read and then type, Google it, and find out the cost of the drone, that particular drone. In fact, I found one which is far, in terms of specification, better than what they are saying, and the maximum cost is $1 million, $100,000 US. That same specification is going out there for $35,000 US. One. For this case, I am staging a one man crusade against it because I strongly believe that it is nothing but a ripoff. I've said it and said it. All what I'm pleading with His Excellency the President is for him to intervene because obviously his deputy or the Vice President is leading this country into a path of unrighteousness.
The House had suspended approval of this particular deal on 2 different occasions to allow for the Health Committee to incorporate a reworking of the financials and also a document from the Civil Aviation Authority giving the green light for the operation of the drones before it can be approved. Chairman of the Health Committee, Dr. Chumiama, gave the indication that all that had been done.
The service fee per distribution center per month will be $80,000 United States for day deliveries only and $88,000 United States for day and night deliveries when fully deployed. We insert the following: a copy of the report on the GCA investigations was submitted to the committee.
First Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Joseph Osei-Owusu, then asked the House to vote on whether they are approving or not approving this particular deal.
Other members, the question is all in favor of the motion, say aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. No, we need a help. No, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, no. Yes, Honorable.
The minority challenged the indication that approval had been given for the deal. Muntaka Mubarak, the minority chief whip, led them on that call.
Mr. Speaker, I'll be grateful that you take us through head count because, in my view, the noes had it, like you call the yes had it. So I'll be grateful if you take us through a head count to determine this beyond reasonable doubt. All in favor of the motion, rise in your places to be counted.
Eventually, the voting was done as members on the majority side supporting the deal were asked to stand, and same was done for those who were objecting to the deal. The counting was done eventually, and then Joseph Osei-Owusu announced the final results of the counting.
Here are the results of those who support the Speaker's decision, 102. Those who oppose with the Speaker's decision, 58. So, with the Speaker's decision that the ayes have it still stands. Other members, the motion is adopted.
Outside the House, the minority spokesperson on finance, Kesela Tofosen, reiterated their insistence that this deal is a bad deal for the country. He went on to challenge Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia to publicly defend and respond to the concerns they've raised about the financials as far as this deal is concerned.
The deal was cooked at the Vice President's office. So we expect His Excellency the Vice President to come and speak to the matter. He should come and speak to the matter because we know it's his office that worked on this deal. We know, even at the committee, his people are those who came to defend it at the committee from his office. So we expect him to come and speak to the matter. In fact, today is a sad day for Ghana.
At the press conference, the minority gave the indication that a future NDC government will renegotiate this particular drone deal and would also work to ensure that any person who had played a role in what they are describing as a fraudulent and criminal deal at the level of government is brought to book in the end.
When we are in power, we are going to review. And when I mean review, we will look at everything that is in tandem with the national interest. If it falls short of the national interest, I can tell you the NDC will not uphold anything that is not in the national interest. If anything is found to be fraudulent, it will be done in conformity with the law. We are in an all law and order driven society. And so any process or any person or anything that is found to have violated the laws of this country will be made to go through the constitutional and legal process.
From Parliament House in Accra, Joseph Opoku-Gakpo reporting.
The Electoral Commission announced to its staff through an internal memo a change of logo.
There has been mixed reaction by sections of the public to the decision by the Electoral Commission to return to the use of its original logo. An internal memo by Chairperson Jane Mensah copied to the deputy chairpersons indicated that effective December 4, 2018, the original logo of the commission, which bears a coat of arms and has a ballot box showing the hand casting its vote, has been restored. The director of elections of the governing New Patriotic Party, Evans Nemaku, seems to support the decision to revert to the old logo.
The EC times past, when they were changing their logo, didn't consult the New Patriotic Party. The current administration didn't consult us that they're changing their logo from this one to the old one in order to reflect their vision and mission. So I will leave that to the EC to manage themselves. These are, for me, administrative issues. Whether we like it or not, Madame Charlotte said changed the logo of the EC and justified it.
Okay.
This is a new administration that has taken over, and it's of the view that in order for them to communicate to the world and deliver and ensure that they are meeting their mission and vision as a commission, they need to go back to visit the old logo and apply that one to ensure that this is the EC of Ghana. If they had consulted us at IPAC, maybe the party would have given its opinion.
Meanwhile, Convention People's Party is demanding answers from the EC because IPAC was not consulted in the decision. Chairman of the Progressive People's Party, Ni Alotebru Hammond, believes money was wasted under the leadership of former chairperson Charlotte Osei in the rebranding of the electoral body.
The tax money was wasted when the logo was converted. I think going back to the original did not require a new design, and the plate must have already been in existence. The wasted revenues from our financial resources was wasted when it was converted from the old to the new.
On the streets of Accra, there has been mixed reaction to the change.
I think it's not proper. It's costing Ghana millions and millions of cedis. Why didn't they wait till the exhaustion of the materials that had the endorsement of Charlotte Osei for the 5-year plan as she proposed? And now they are changing it. It's going to cost Ghana millions and millions of cedis.
Well, the logo is very important to change the logo. Because during the time Charlotte Osei was planning to change the logo, so I would like to make it point to those people who had anyone who had any office that you are in that office. You are in that office, whereby Ghanaians, they are using their tax to pay you. So whenever you are trying to implement something, and the Ghanaians said they don't want it, you have to listen to them.
There were other stories that dominated the headlines in the year 2018.
Over 2 million registered voters are expected to vote at 4,789 polling stations of the proposed areas. The issue for the determination at the referendum, as required by law, is whether the voters support the creation of a particular proposed region or not. Registered voters within regions from which proposed new regions will be carved out after thumbprint on ballot paper for or against the creation. The associated ballot color for yes is yellow and brown for no. Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Jen Mensah, has been highlighting preparations ahead of the referendum.
Logistics for the referendum, including materials and items for all activities relating to the referendum, have been procured and dispatched to the affected regions. These include stationery and various election-related forms. The biometric verification devices, namely BVDs, to be used for the referendum have all been refurbished. Each polling station will have 2 BVDs. In addition, a provision has been made for backup BVDs at the regional and district offices of the Commission. All BVDs have been dispatched to the affected regions and districts.
She also revealed that identified flashpoints have been submitted to the security services to put measures in place to ensure smooth referendum.
Within the North Gonja districts of the proposed Savannah region, we have Mamprugu and Mankrala communities there. We have also Sankore and the Asuna, 4 districts of the proposed Ahafo region. And we also have the Dambai Township in the proposed Oti region. But we do have a number of flashpoint areas that we've given
without
to.
mentioning the names.
Yes, because I think what happens is, even the initial letter that we wrote to the Ghana Police Service, specifically the Inspector General of Police, we mentioned a number of flashpoints. But as we noted, we have some coordinators, referendum coordinators in the field who are updating us on a weekly basis. So even currently, we are writing to the IGP again with an additional list. So
the Commission also indicated its readiness to organize a special voting exercise on Monday, 24 December, for special voters comprising security personnel, Electoral Commission officials, and the media. There are about 10,000 voters who will be casting their votes at the 48 special voting centers in the district of the carved areas. Kwesi Parker Wilson for JoyNews.
In our engagement with the special prosecutor, we saw that there appeared to be a clash of personalities arising out of ego between the special prosecutor and the Attorney General's office. Mr. Speaker, we cannot achieve our intended purposes if we work in silos. We cannot, Mr. Speaker. Like Captain Planet, there must be synergy. Indeed, the Special Prosecutor's Office is derived from the Attorney General's office, and particularly, Parliament has carved out part of the prosecutorial powers of the Attorney General in terms of corruption and corruption-related offenses for the Special Prosecutor. We only expect that the Special Prosecutor, in the performance of his function, will not be influenced, directed, or controlled by the Attorney General's office. But we expect that the Attorney General's office will collaborate with the Special Prosecutor.
It is not the case, and I repeat, it is not the case that there is a clash of egos between the Honorable Attorney General and the...
Honorable, it was never said.
Mr. Speaker, if you look at the expenditure under management and administration, there is an allocation of 20 million cedis for other expenses. And the same other expenses, an amount of 10 million cedis is located for the operations under anti-corruption management. Mr. Speaker, the Office of the Special Prosecutor was unable to give the expenditure details for these allocations. And I thought that it is very interesting because, you see, even the Office of the National Security Coordinator brings its budget and tells us how it intends to spend monies allocated to it. And I expect the Office of the Special Prosecutor to operate in a very transparent manner, because it is an office that we are empowering to go and fight the canker of corruption in respect of other public office holders and other private individuals operating within the jurisdiction. And so we want to urge him that whatever expenditure outlines that are allocated to you should be able to tell Parliament at least how the office intends to expend the expenditure outlines on those ones.
Lawyers for the Central Bank in September 2018 made an application to the court asking that the case challenging the takeover of Unibank be set aside. They argued the shareholders of defunct Unibank had initiated a legal action using a wrong procedure. They insisted aggrieved shareholders should have resorted to the arbitration rather than issuing a writ. They added that the shareholders could have rather filed for a judicial review if they intended to question the administrative decision of BOG rather than by a writ of summons. Lawyers for the shareholders, however, urged the court to look at the substance of the case rather than the form. They maintained their case was solely about whether BOG was right in revoking Unibank's license, setting up and transfer of its asset to the Consolidated Bank Ghana. Justice Angelina Mensah Humia, in her ruling, held that the writ in its present form is a mixture of two procedures which the shareholders should have followed. She said if proceedings are stayed like the shareholders argue, what then happens to the human rights aspect of the case? The court, she said, is of the opinion that the case filed in its present form could not stand and should be set aside. It is not clear whether the shareholders of the defunct bank may consider appealing the decision of the court.